across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a very good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you for the next 3 hours. I know I said it might be 11 o'clock, but here we are again. It's 10 o'clock start all through this week. As to next week, don't know. But we're here from 10 all of this week. So that's brilliant. So let me tell you what we've got coming up. First of all, at midnight, of course, we've got Talkback. So that's your opportunity to do exactly that. And that is to voice your opinion, to have your say, to be the conversation. So please do talk back. What I want to talk to you about, this is this extraordinary story. I don't know if you've seen it, but it slapped me in the face this morning when I read it, and I thought, oh, I want to talk to you about this. I definitely want to talk to you about this. A Bulgarian woman who took part in Britain's biggest ever benefits fraud has made a mockery of taxpayers by claiming universal credit after being released. So, despite being part of a conspiracy which stole more than £54 million from us, from you and me, in a factory of false and fraudulent claims. 54 million. She's now out of jail. In fact, she never really went in terms of her sentencing. She was sentenced to 3 years, but because of time served and probation and all of those things, she's now back at home with her benefit-claiming husband and is now claiming benefits. I mean, you literally could not make this stuff up. And I haven't. It's true. So a couple of questions. Should fraudsters ever get benefits ever again? If they've defrauded us, and she says, I don't want to leave Britain, my family's here, I love it here, it's good, and it's helped me. Well, she helped herself to £54 million with her cohorts. So the other thing is that they've only been asked to pay back £2 million by our government. Literally. They're going, yeah, we managed to get £1 million back and we're going after £1 million more. £54 million over a 4.5-year fraud. So I want to hear from you on this. Do you think that people who are fraudsters should ever get benefits again? Have you ever been accused of fraud? Have you ever been overpaid? Because I'll break these figures all down for you a little bit later on, because there's overpayment by error and then there's overpayment by fraud, so it's all broken down. But basically, we're defrauded out of £9.5 billion a year. 9.5 billion. And then, of course, all that happens is that we just pay more tax to cover that. So I'd love to hear from you on that. Have you ever been accused of fraud? Have you ever been overpaid? Have you ever been underpaid? And that overarching question, should fraudsters ever be entitled to benefits again? I don't care what happens to them. They're on the streets, living without anything. But if they've defrauded us, surely that's enough. So that's what we're going to be talking about at midnight. I'd love to hear your view on this, and maybe you'll be a bit softer than me and you'll just think, well, no, if they've hit hard times, maybe they should get the money. I don't know. You tell me. So that's coming up. Also, to let you know that Phil Dave will be here in the studio to go through the newspapers for tomorrow, the front pages. Michelle Polino will be joining us, not from LA this time, but from Nashville, Tennessee. She has moved to talk to us about the Golden Globes and what that looks like for the Oscars, because Oscar voting started today. So we'll be looking at that. We'll be checking out that story on benefit fraud and asking the Taxpayers Alliance just how bad the system is for that as well. But first, we have to address this story. And this is the biggest story in the world at the moment as we turn our attention to Iran. Anti-government protests in Iran have entered a third week, and according to a human rights group, the number of people killed has reached 648. That's a number, actually. Those are only the verified, that could be verified. They do think that it could be 6,000 dead so far. More than 10,600 people have been detained across the country. Independent news is hard to come by, but it has been verified that there are protests now in all 31 provinces. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper spoke to her Iranian counterpart asking to end the violence, but was told to avoid interfering in Iran's internal affairs. Over in the US, Donald Trump said he was considering very strong options after saying that he was locked and loaded and ready, whatever that meant. I think we can potentially figure that out. It's not very well coded. After previously saying that he would act if protesters were killed. Well, joining us to discuss the global picture of this and what this means to us, what Russia are saying, what everybody else is saying, is Simon Diggins, retired British colonel and host of the Sun's Superpowers Exposed series, which is really, really good. So you need to have a look at that if you haven't seen it. Simon, thank you for joining me. Look, a lot of people will be going, well, this is Iran's problem. Why are we talking about it?
Well, Petrie, good evening to you. I think the reason we're talking about it is because of the implications of Iran. We know that they've had a hand in sponsorship of terrorist groups across the Middle East, and that's impacted on us, whether it be Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in the Lebanon, the Houthis who are attacking shipping in the Red Sea, affecting our shipping that goes on from there, as well as the sponsorship of various other Islamist groups, not only in the Middle East, but also in UK and across the West. So Iran sits at the centre of this kind of nexus of this kind of combination of terrorism support and disinformation, indeed, attempted subversion of the West. So what happens to the Iranian regime is of huge importance to us. And it's a big country. I mean, 90-odd million people, a major oil exporter, a unique civilization, a very important civilization. And so how Iran is, it should be of huge importance to all of us.
It's also something that America has been involved in, I mean, 1953, I think, was the last one, but even back further than that. Is this beginning to look a little bit like that Donald Trump wants to be part of regime change here?
I mean, I think he's always pragmatic. I think he has lots of characteristics. One of them is this degree of pragmatism about a lot of things from there. The Americans do not like the Iranians, nor do we, for all sorts of very good reasons in the past and what they've done most recently in terms of their attempt to try and build their own nuclear program. So I think Donald Trump is keen to try and bring the whole thing under control, and indeed, I think very properly as well, to topple the Iranian regime. Though that's probably not his primary aim. He's put it in quite limited terms. If you start shooting at us, then we're going to respond back from there. But I think he's looking very carefully at what that actually means. If you start shooting, who are you going to start shooting? Are you going to arouse a kind of strong anti-foreigner sentiment within Iran, which is never very far from the surface? At the moment, there's no question about it. I think most Iranians want rid of the theocratic regime that's in place, and they don't really care who does it. Indeed, there were reports even from July of people cheering on the streets after the Israelis and the Americans attacked them from there. So I think at the moment they're very keen to get them. But whenever you get involved in military action, there's always a possibility of a mistake, always a possibility of some unexpected escalation, and that could create casualties and then flip the mood over. And that would it would have unintended consequences for what we're trying to do. So I think that's why he's wary.
That doesn't prevent covert action, though, does it? We know the Israelis have got people in Iran. That's how Donald Trump was able to masterfully execute his last bombing. So we know that the Israeli spies are there. Could they go for covert action?
They could do it. I mean, there are a number of options. I mean, it wouldn't be difficult to know where Khamenei is at the moment and go after him, to go after the IRGC leadership and do what to them as was done to the Hezbollah and to the Hamas leadership. and go after them repeatedly until they kind of get the message that it's being too IC of the leadership there is not a very safe and lifelong term prospect for you. What I would hope was also going on there, rather more positively and perhaps less destructively, is people literally working the phones. Iran is this really strange country. We're used to looking at it from the kind of perspective of the kind of theocratic element of it. The Khamenei at the top is the supreme leader, the IRGC, who are very much an ideological force, who sit there with their other supporting militia, the Basij. But there's other bits of the country which looks like a normal country. They have got a parliament of majlis. They have got a president who is secular. They've even got armed forces who are not necessarily as ideological as the IRGC. And we've had dealings and relationships with them over time as well. So I'm rather hoping, as well as the planning for how we're going to deal with the current issue, people are working those phones like mad and going, all right, what is the deal? How do we get you out of this? How do we help you to get rid of the IRGC and then start to rebuild Iran? Because a bit like what's happened in Venezuela, this is a country that's now literally on its knees with the exchange rate of $1 to the real is something like 1.3 million. 1.3 million Iranian reals to $1. A year ago, it was 50,000. Still extreme numbers for us, but it's completely out of scale. Their economy's collapsed. Their sanctions are really hitting home to them. Whatever happens, they're going to have to rebuild that country. And so talking to them as well as dealing with the IRGC is also really important.
A lot of people, though, are suggesting that actually this isn't just protest, this is revolution, that this actually is different, it's bigger, and it's unstoppable from what we're hearing out of anything that we can hear out of the country since it's been shut down from the internet and phone usage. But this is revolution. But they've got a two-tier issue, haven't they? They've got to get rid of the Ayatollah and the mullahs, and they've got to get rid of the government. And a lot of people are suggesting, Simon, that only if the IRGC supports them will they be able to do it.
And that is possible, but there are other forces there. I mean, their armed forces are about 400,000 plus, IRGC about 125,000. Again, they'll know each other, they'll be able to talk to them and basically say to them, look, you have no future. There is no future in what you're trying to do. It's time to sort of give up the ghost. I suspect what may happen is Khamenei himself may go. I mean, there's been conversations running about a number of Russian aircraft going in and out of Tehran airport, taking gold out. And I think one of them may just find a bit like with Assad of Syria. One of them might one day just have Khamenei on board with his family.
Well, that's exactly what happened in Syria, wasn't it? All these planes going in and out, taking all the gold and the money out of the country, and then one day Assad was on one of those planes. So do you think the Ayatollah is seeing? I mean, I suspect that they're seeing this crumble now in front of them. They're not going to give up that easily, though, right? I mean, even if they get all the gold out of the country and rob it blind, do they really want to give up this Islamic statehood?
No, I think the other thing particularly about the IRGC, is that they're basically what the political scientists call a parastatal. I mean, it's not just they're a kind of military militia force and a sponsorship of terrorism around the world. They're also a small part of the economy as well. But so they've got some of the key bits of the economy are under their direct control. Parts of the oil industry, parts of all sorts of other businesses. So they are kind of self-sustaining in their own way. So if you're a member of the IRGC at the moment, you're not looking just at the sort of, you may find yourself at the wrong end of a post-revolutionary tribunal. You're also talking about your whole livelihood and your life itself being removed. So I think that's also part of the thing. So they're not going to give up easily. But on the other hand, I mean, whilst they often have this kind of appearance of fanaticism, a lot of autocratic regimes have got this. Their facade is strong until it breaks, and then when it breaks, it collapses completely. And I think that's what we're going to see here as well. But right up to the last moment, a bit like what happened in Iraq with Qamar Gaddafi, you remember him, proclaiming that
well, the tanks were going behind him. Yeah,
the tanks were behind him, and he was saying, "No, we're destroying all the tanks." Exactly. Yeah. This is what we're going to see in Iran as well, right to the very last moment. All the rhetoric, all the sort of the conversations coming out of their foreign ministry and from the Ayatollah are all going to be about dealing with these foreigners, this foreign interference. All that's going to happen, and then 1 second they're going to collapse and the whole thing's going to implode. The question is, how do we get there? And that's where the issue of force, how much force, what force you use, I think is very important.
It's extreme. I mean, those brave people, honestly, incredible. The Iranian people, and they've been fighting for this freedom for so many decades now. Simon, thank you. Simon Diggins, retired British colonel and host of the Sun's Superpowers Exposed series, which is excellent, truly good. Go and have a look at that, but not right now. Because now I want to talk to Beta, who is a human rights activist and member of Stage of Freedom. And Beta joins us now. Thank you very much indeed for joining me, Beta. Just saying there how incredibly brave the Iranian people are, real fighters, and have been for so many years now. Is this, do you hope this is the big revolution that will topple this theocracy?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Petrie. I think a lot of Iranians, both inside and outside of Iran, are very hopeful that this is it. This really does feel very different. And I think one of the main reasons why it feels so different is because Iranians are not just taking to the streets and chanting and shouting for what they don't want. They are very clearly taking to the streets and are loudly and proudly calling for what they want and what the country needs to restore its democracy and freedom. And that is the return of Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi to do that as a transitional leader until we can get Iranians to the voting polls so that they can choose freely and democratically their next leaders.
Do you think that he would work on that premise, that because I'm not very trusting of world leaders at the moment, that he might come in and quite like the power and the money, then he might not leave?
I mean, personally speaking, and I think I have the authority to speak for majority of the supporters of Pahlavi, Crown Prince, and I think we're all very confident that consistently since his family were exiled from Iran, that has been a very consistent message. And all of his actions to date have shown nothing that contradicts that statement that he's made, that he's not in it for personal gain. His aim is not to take back the crown or the monarchy. His aim is to simply lead the people to a transition so that they can vote for their own freedom and future. And there's really been no evidence at all of anything that contradicts that in the last 47 years.
And is he the figurehead that Iran would accept? Because that's been the problem with forced regime change on your country before, the will of America or the will of whoever, that has been the major problem. Is he somebody under which the country would gather in temporarily before elections could take place?
I can confidently say that he's by far the most popular opposition leader, in my opinion, and in the opinion of thousands of Iranians inside and outside of Iran. He is the only opposition leader who can do that. There really is nobody that was kind of raised and bred to have the education, the connections, and the influence to deliver that, and the goodwill. That is his father's and his grandfather's legacy that is in Iran. And anything that is good in Iran, many Iranians believe it's from the Pahlavi dynasty, and it is in his interest, it is in his heart, as many of us believe, that he would do that.
In your view, and I know it's very difficult, you've got family in Iran at the moment, and it's very difficult to get information out of there, but is this going to continue, do you think? Do the people have the will to keep fighting at this level? Reports that could be as many as 6,000 protesters have been killed, many have been disappeared. Is there the will to keep fighting, do you think, at this point?
I think there absolutely is. And the reason for that is because the people of Iran don't have peace and safety when the uprisings aren't happening. People are still being, abducted in broad daylight. People are still being, restricted of their freedom. We were talking about the economy. Now, the economy isn't what the people are chanting for. The people are calling for absolute regime change. But on a day-to-day living outside of these uprisings, people can barely afford a square meal for their families. So what else is there to lose when you have nothing to lose? You know, if there isn't a job, we're talking about some of the brightest minds. We're talking about people that have masters and PhDs who cannot get jobs. We're talking about, you know, people that work in different companies that earn millions of pounds that don't get paid their monthly wages and salaries. In the summer, we saw horrific videos come out of regions in Iran, particularly really hot climates in Iran, where they had to put their infants inside freezers because there was no electricity for the air conditioning to work. So day to day, as much as the government, the regime in Iran would like to say that these uprising is what's causing the unrest, no, the uprising is a direct result of the lack of safety, freedom, and basic necessities that people have.
And what would the Iranian people want Donald Trump to do at this point?
The people of Iran are not calling for boots inside Iran. They're not saying bring the army in and let us see another version of Iraq and wherever else. The people of Iran are calling for targeted operations at the IRGC basis to simply just to cut their ties, to take away some of the power, some of the infrastructure that they've had. The people of Iran are doing the hard work. This is as much as people would like to say this is a coordinated, organized USA uprising, it's not. It's an organic uprising. It is the Iranian people who will ultimately lead themselves and take themselves to freedom and democracy. All that they are welcoming is support that President Donald Trump has offered. And they are simply asking, much like they did in the earlier, kind of in that 12-day war, they're just asking for specific kind of military action on IRGC bases, very targeted attacks, not boots on the ground.
Well, we've seen about half an hour ago, Donald Trump put out, effective immediately, any country doing business with the Islamic Republic of Iran will pay a tariff of 25% on any and all business being done with the United States of America. This order is final and conclusive. It seems like he might go the economy way. Would that be disappointing?
It would be disappointing. It would be disappointing for many, because I think at the moment the knee-jerk reaction would be disappointment, because of course we're hearing of abductions, of violent attacks, of brutal murders. But what happens beyond that is then to be thought of and to be considered. But I just want to make it very clear that it is the people of Iran that are leading themselves to freedom and democracy. And we're just hopeful that President Donald Trump will continue to be a man of his words and stand by the Iranians and do what is necessary to support them.
Yeah, it's always been the case, hasn't it, that Iran just needs that little bit of help just to get across the line, and we should have done it years ago. Thank you, Vita. Lovely to talk to you. We'll probably talk again, I would imagine, and hopefully with better news for your country. So thank you for joining me. Vita, the human rights activist and member of Stage of Freedom, discussing there. People are calling it the protests in Iran, but this is a revolution. Quick break. Back in a sec.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie here with you. I've got a tickle in my throat now. I think I caught it off Simon. Anyway, coming up at midnight, it is your chance to talk back. And I really want to hear from you on this because this is a story that just occasionally you just go, what is going on? What is happening in this country when someone can defraud us out of £54 million and then claim benefits? I mean, you literally couldn't make this stuff up. How are you able to do that? And our great and good, brilliant government have managed to reclaim £1 million, and they're only going after another 1 million. So this woman who stole from her said, I don't want to leave Britain. She's Bulgarian, by the way. They're looking at deporting her, but they haven't. Instead, they've given her benefits. Yeah. So she's vowed to fight efforts to deport her, boasting about her taxpayer-funded lifestyle. I mean, there's taking the mick, and then there's that, isn't there, really? It's the barefacedness of it. But anyway, the question I'm asking you is, should fraudsters ever get benefits ever again? Should they even be allowed to use the NHS? I mean, they stole from us. Fraud in the benefits system cost us nearly £10 billion a year. We're going to be looking at that story in a moment with the Taxpayers Alliance, but that is what we're talking about at midnight. I also want to know if you've ever been overpaid by the benefit system or underpaid, and what happened with that, because I'm very aware that all this fraud, that some of it could be being labelled fraud when you have been overpaid, and that's a different thing. I don't think that should be referred to as fraud, frankly, if you've been overpaid. But if you deliberately lied and then were paid, should you ever be able to claim benefits again? That's the question I'm going to be asking. So please do pick up the phone. 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you back. Time, though, now to find out how you could be in with a chance of winning a trip of a lifetime to San Francisco. Talk is giving away flights, a 3-night stay at a 4-star intercontinental hotel, and $2,500 spending money, plus tickets to the Super Bowl to top it all off. Listen now to find out how you can enter.
For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343-418-7260. Lines close 22nd January 2026, 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus, UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at TalkSport.com. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. Good evening to you. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you. And like I said, at midnight, we're going to be discussing this story. So we've got a guest in now to fill in some of the blanks for us. The story is laughing in the face of hard-working taxpayers. The Bulgarian migrant who stole more than £54 million in UK's biggest benefit fraud is back claiming universal credit with her depressed husband after being freed from jail early. So she's now back on benefits, having stolen or been part of the fraud to steal £54 million from us, the taxpayer. And now we're paying her benefits. It's really kind. Or is it really, really stupid? £9.5 billion a year stolen from us in fraud. So to discuss this further, Anne Strickland joins me now, researcher at the Taxpayers Alliance. It's good to see you. Thank you for joining me, Anne.
Thank you for having me on.
So Svetka Todorova is now claiming universal credit. Is that fair on anybody?
No, I mean, this is a woman who has been part of a massive organised crime scandal. It's one of the largest cases of benefit fraud, not just in this country, but across Europe. And for her to not only be part of this benefit fraud, to steal more than £54 million from British taxpayers. I mean, that's just the number that the prosecutors can attribute to these people. It's, realistically much higher than that. She's someone who has been prosecuted with this. She's been charged with this. She's served her time in prison for it. There's obviously no question of her being guilty.
Well, she admitted guilt, didn't she? Although
absolutely.
She's denying it now. But yeah, she admitted guilt.
There is no question of guilt here, I think. And I think when someone exploited the system to the extent that this organised criminal gang has done, it's time to say enough is enough. You can't keep giving these people the generosity of the British state and exploiting the hard work of British taxpayers.
We're just showing images there, Anne, of a video that they recorded themselves of them throwing money at each other, actual cash at each other, and videoing it, and it's on the screen again at the moment. I don't know why we're protecting anybody's anonymity there, but it literally just, I mean, that is another level of disrespect, isn't it? Just gloating about it and just throwing money, our money, on the floor.
Absolutely. I mean, it's quite sickening, frankly, and it's an absolute farce. This is hard-earned, paid for British taxpayers' money, and it is being, quite frankly, chucked away. It's being stolen by these criminals. These aren't people who are accidentally filling in forms.
No.
Or there is a level of error to it. This is criminality. This is people deliberately defrauding the British state. Obviously, this individual case is one of the largest ever seen, but this isn't unique to this. It's a massive problem across the entire welfare system.
So, and these, my understanding is they were all foreign nationals, and it was actually a Bulgarian police officer who alerted the British government saying, well, I don't know what's going on over there, mate, but there's a lot of criminals in this town who are suddenly incredibly wealthy. It says to me that the system is broken, that people can so easily remove this sort of money, and we still wouldn't know about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that the system is fundamentally broken. And I think one of the causes of that was definitely post-pandemic, the removal of things like face-to-face assessments for welfare payments. We've seen that the level of fraud within the system has doubled, almost doubled, since the pandemic. It's now at around about £9.5 billion a year is being lost to fraud and error within the welfare system. It's absolutely vast numbers. It's staggering.
I mean, it's disgusting when you think about the tax hikes that we're all having to suffer, and they're not over yet, in order to fill this bloated system in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Rachel Reeves has just turned around at the last budget and hiked taxes by £26 billion. Families up and down the country are struggling, are, grafting to pay their taxes, to feed their families, to keep the lights on during this winter. It's increasingly hard to make a living in this country. And for people who play by the rules, they aren't, it's a kick in the teeth for them that people are able to defraud the system so easily and to such great extent.
And the thing that also disgusted me actually about this piece was the fact that the government appears to only be going after £2 million to repay this debt. That they don't seem to be, interested in the hard graft to get the bulk of this money back.
I know, absolutely. I mean, they're effectively saying you can steal British taxpayers' money and get away with it.
Basically, yeah.
There's no deterrent at all.
They're not even been deported.
They haven't even been deported. They are still on benefits. They haven't had to pay anything back. They received, in my opinion, quite lowly prison sentences between 3 and 8 years for the level of fraud that they committed. There is no deterrent to stop this happening again.
And is this, do you think, because it's everybody's money, but it's nobody's money? It's taxpayers' money, right? So we are just the cash cow, right? Government doesn't have its own money, it's our money. So they're very good at wasting it, right? We know that. So is it because it doesn't feel that important to them?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there are aspects of that the public sector has lost touch with whose money it's actually using. There's no connection between this is money that we are taking in tax from British working households, and this is money that we are paying out in welfare payments. This is money we don't care that is being defrauded from us. I think there is definitely an aspect of that. I think if they were serious about trying to address the level of fraud within the welfare system, they would have brought back in-person assessments immediately in the aftermath of COVID.
And they still haven't done that. They're still not doing that.
No. I mean, in 2024, only 6% of personal independent payment assessments were face-to-face. It's minuscule, that's an absolute tiny minority of the assessments for disability benefits. And you can see, obviously, since COVID, there has been a massive spike in the number of people claiming benefits.
Yeah. A third of all households now, just over a third of all households are getting some kind of benefit.
Yeah, it's a system that is across the entire country and is growing year on year. Obviously, with Labour planning to scrap the two-child benefit cap, it's going to continue to grow. Disability payments more than doubled since COVID. And it's particularly with things like back pain, autism, anxiety and depression, disorders that can be genuine disabilities and are, sometimes genuinely need help. But with the lack of face-to-face assessment, they are increasingly difficult to verify whether those are genuine claims or whether it is a form of fraud in the system.
See, a lot of people would say, well, it's not really fraud. I'm just claiming a bit extra on the side. It's not fraud like this 54 million. What would you say to them?
I think any form of deliberately lying to gain access to benefits that you are legally not entitled to is fraud. You know, that's the definition of fraud. And I think even if it's done in a tiny, minuscule way, it's still fraud and it's still illegal. And I think if there was true deterrence in place, for example, saying that it meant that people were no longer able to access the benefit system, it might make people think twice about it.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly know somebody who fakes their disability and gets everything, car, money, support, everything. But she wouldn't see it that way. And by the way, has been reported, but nothing's happened. Not actually by me, but by somebody else reported her. And that is also the problem, isn't it? That when fraudsters are pointed out, they don't seem to be being dealt with.
No, absolutely. I mean, from this Bulgarian benefit scandal, there was a whistleblower in the DWP who saw some of the things and thought, this doesn't look right, and was shut down by people he worked with and said, don't look into that further. I don't think that there is an incentive for those working within the DWP to crack down on fraud. You know, they get vast amounts of taxpayer money funneled through the DWP. It's one of the largest, if not the largest, government department. And so they have no incentive to crack down on it.
Yeah, it is talk about being depressed. I mean, this certainly makes me feel less than happy. Great to talk to you, and thank you very much indeed. Anne Strickland there, researcher at the Taxpayers Alliance. So what do you think? I mean, it should be, shouldn't it, that if you're defrauding the system, you can never benefit from that system again. Surely. It's got to be as simple as that. It can't be beyond the wit of man or woman to put that in place. Give me a call, 0344 499 1000.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello Hello there, and a good evening to you. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you. Just a reminder that coming up at the top of the hour is Phil Dave. He's going to be going through the front pages with me for you. But right now, I'm absolutely thrilled. I haven't spoken to her this year. To speak to my best girl out in the States, Michelle Pollino, Fox News Headlines 24/7 entertainment reporter. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. I've missed you.
I've missed you. It's been such a long time. It was funny, we were talking today about, in our meeting, about the show, and I said, well, I'd quite like to talk about the Golden Globes, see if Michelle's around. And Gabriella said, well, I know she's just moved. And I said, well, just ask her anyway, because you've moved to Nashville.
Yes, I'm in Music City, the music capital of the country.
How did that come about?
Well, LA was getting scary for us, and it really was. The policies and the taxes and such became quite overwhelming. And my wife has been out of work. She has worked in the industry for 30 years, launched incredible shows like Parenthood and Friends, and worked on extraordinary Good Omens, all these great TV shows.
Brilliant show.
Brilliant show, right. She did that fantastic ad campaign, and she's been out of work for 2 years, and I just said, we can't cut it anymore. And they said, what about Nashville? And I said, sounds good to me.
Yeehaw.
Yeah, I got my cowboy hat, which I should have brought with me today.
I was really expecting the cowboy hat and cowboy boots.
I do have. I'm getting quite the selection, so I will bring it in next time we speak.
Fantastic. Well, I'm thrilled for you both and for your dogs that you found somewhere.
Thank you. Yes, he's so happy. He's got a big yard with lots of squirrels to chase.
Oh, that is wonderful. I'm glad, and I'm happy you feel safer there as well. So lots of love to all of you. Right, the 83rd edition of the Golden Globes have taken place. Now, the reason the Globes are interesting is because they kind of tell us which direction the Oscars are going to go into, and they started voting, I believe, today for the Oscars in March. So, were there any surprises here at the Golden Globes?
I think that's what made the show kind of a little boring, was there was no surprises. One battle after another keeps, picking up awards trophies ever since the Critics' Choice Awards, which were about 2 weeks ago, where it took the top prize there. I think the only surprise, and actually I'm quite happy about it, because Hamnet is it's stunning. If you haven't seen it, you're kind of watching a clip on screen. If you're seeing that now, it is fantastic. Hamnet took the Best Drama Prize, the top prize, and because they split, the Golden Globes are a little bit different than most award shows. They split the top prize. They give away a trophy for Best Comedy or Musical, which went to One Battle After Another, which it is neither.
I was going to say, I didn't think it was a musical.
No, it's not a musical, not a comedy, or it is a farce. I mean, it's a very highly political film about the deeply embedded political battles that just continue in this country, and about these kind of revolutionaries in the 70s. I actually just finished a fantastic book on it, and it really is a movie about the consistent political battles and how extremism continues to drive the politics of this country. So in that sense, I mean, it is. But it's just really violent, and so I don't know how it could have won that category. I'm really happy that Hamnet took 2 prizes, and I do think it might give, directed by Chloe Zhao, it might give One Battle After Another a run, but I doubt it, since people just seem to love these movies.
Yeah, I mean, and Hamnet, is it out yet here? I'm not even sure it's out yet. I think it's coming out soon, in the next couple of weeks. But we haven't really seen it, and that's always quite interesting. Oh, it's just come out. It's literally just come out, Michelle. So
please go see it.
Yeah.
You will love it. You will. I mean, it's heartbreaking, but the performances in it are just stunning. They're stunning.
I've heard incredible things about it. But like you said, it's these big ones, isn't it? And with the political situation in the States at the moment, you might find that one battle after another is just hit the zeitgeist, as it were. We did quite well, though, didn't we? The Brits, and I'm going to claim the Irish as well.
Well, you just did.
I just claim. We love them. We did well. I mean, adolescents still winning awards.
I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Again, it's kind of a little bit of a political football, another TV series that is a little bit has a minor political tinge to it.
Yeah.
But yes, it was an extraordinary TV series, a limited series. You know they're coming out with another one, a follow-up, because it's been just so successful in the awards circuit. But in that young, lovely boy who just said, "Oh, darn it, I'm going to give it a go," and he just becomes this huge star, and it's really an extraordinary.
I mean, it's just he make wasn't that a record for him, for the youngest person to win a Golden Globe?
Yeah, and it just swept the categories. It's been sweeping the categories ever since the Emmys back in September. And it is in many ways slightly hot take in many ways, because I know there's a lot of people mad about the fact that they think it was they used a white boy as an actor to kind of claim it was a white boy, and then it was based on a true story about this person of color. And I think that background kind of tinges it a little. Outside of that, it's just an extraordinary series.
Yeah, what I loved was what the director said about that, or the co-creator said, look, when you look at this, it looks like a story about that we should fear adolescence.
Right.
But it's actually about all the violence and the filth that we put in their way. And I thought that was incredibly powerful, because that is a way of looking at that story for me now that goes, oh yeah, it's not about the kid, it's about all the crap that we feed them, right? Literally and metaphorically. I
think so, and I think it's about really the real story of our age, which is what is happening to our boys online.
Yeah, exactly.
What is happening to our kids online. So yes.
I thought that was a really interesting take on that. He said it's not about being frightened of young people, it's about taking responsibility for what we've done to them. And this is what
correct.
We've done. Yeah. So I thought that was really, really interesting. So the Oscar voting starts. Is this who votes, first of all, Michelle?
Well, it's all the
members.
Yeah, all the members in the Academy. You have to be invited to be a member. And they, I mean, it's basically all the actors and actresses that
vote for themselves.
They vote for themselves, or yes, exactly. And that's why you're seeing what you're seeing with One Battle After Another. Like, they are highly active. They are activists. They were out there wearing pins on the red carpet. They are going to vote for more activist material. Sinners was a beautiful film, a gorgeous, genre-bending vampire film that actually spoke, had a minor political message, but it was so subtle and nuanced and beautifully told. I'm so saddened that it's being kind of overshadowed by One Battle After Another, because I think Ryan Coogler did a fantastic job on it.
And it was fairly cheap as well, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah, and the people went to see it.
Yeah.
That was the other thing. Like, The people went to see it.
Do you know, Michelle, I think a lot of us now just want really good stories to be told. And I wonder if that's why Hamnet, you know, is in there. It's a good story told well, you know, as opposed to these sequel, prequel, and geekquels that you get with the
geekquels.
The Marvels.
I think
you know,
you've created a new category.
Geekquels. Yeah.
There's always something beautiful that you hand me.
But you know what I mean? It's all those geeks that go and see the movies of the Marvel, of the whatever.
Yes.
Well, that is my gift to you this year, Michelle. It's so wonderful to see you.
Out.
I will see you very soon, my love. Take care. Michelle Polino there, who is Fox News Headlines 24/7 entertainment reporter. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful woman. Right, so coming up, it is the paper review, and in the studio we've got Phil Dave, who will be here to take us all the way through what's happening tomorrow.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a very good evening to you. This is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And coming up at midnight, it is your chance to talk back. And I really need you to call me about this. It is about a Bulgarian woman who took part in Britain's biggest ever benefits theft when she fraudulently, with her cohort, stole £54 million from the British taxpayer. £54 million over 4.5 years. She and her cohort stole £54 million from you and me. She is now out of prison. She had a very, very short time in prison, if any, I seem to remember reading earlier, after probation and all that. 3 years in total she was given anyway. She's now out and on benefits, claiming benefits, saying that she's vowing to fight efforts to deport her back to Bulgaria and boasted about her taxpayer-funded lifestyle. She told the Daily Mail, "I don't want to leave Britain. My family's here. I love it here. It's good and has helped me. I've been back on benefits since December the 30th. It'll be about £200 a month. I don't have the right to work. My husband gets over £1,000 for universal credit. I think it's 1,300, and he gets more as well." Apparently, she's a bit depressed after leaving prison. She said it was like a vacation, and boasted of having her hair done and a manicure, and claims now to be depressed and ill. So, basically, should fraudsters ever be able to claim benefits ever again? It doesn't seem that difficult to me. First of all, she's a foreign national and should have been deported. And second of all, she's on benefits. And third of all, by the way, this whole gang, having nicked 54 million from you and me, have only been required to pay back 2 million of that 54 million. It also appears that other members of the gang, upon being released from jail, are back on benefits. So what they did with that money, who knows? But they're on benefits that we pay after they stole from us. So that's what I want to talk to you about. Should fraudsters ever get benefits ever again? Have you ever, by the way, been overpaid? Because a lot of these numbers are thrown in with people who are accused of fraud, but it isn't fraud. It's an overpayment by mistake, right? They've tried to separate those out. So have you ever been overpaid? Have you ever been accused of fraud? Have you ever been underpaid by the benefit system? And like I said, just accused of fraudulent behaviour. And the other thing is, it wasn't even us that discovered this fraud. It was a cop in Bulgaria who phoned a counterpart in the UK and said, "By the way, is there something going on in the UK? Because we've got an awful lot of money sloshing around my town with criminals." So this would still be going on. I mean, God knows how many more people are doing it right now, and we don't even know. And this is a system that I'm repeatedly told is incredibly difficult to get anything out of. So anyway, that's the phone in. Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you back. And you can text the word talk and your message to 87222. Well, joining me now to discuss this and the front page of the papers is our very own broadcaster and editor, Phil Dave.
Hello.
Hello. This is one of those stories that when I was sleepily pouring coffee down my throat this morning, literally slapped me around the face and made me wake up rather quickly.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if I've got words that I can use on air to describe what I think about this particular individual. But let's just say what I can say, and that is that I'm so fed up of hearing from the liberal elite that they can't stand the number of hard-working, successful businessmen and women out there who don't pay taxes properly. And we should go after them, and we should be clawing extra taxes from them. But I don't ever hear them complain about cretins like this. I don't ever hear them say
9.5 billion a year,
claw back the money that these kind of reprobates who have done absolutely nothing, that's the polite way of putting it, to contribute towards the economy. We don't ever hear about them saying we need to claim the money back from them, because actually suddenly that 26 billion black hole or whatever imaginary sum Rachel from accounts comes up with now, that actually would probably diminish quite substantially if we
half of it nearly,
were able to claw back this kind of money. And so in my mind, these are the people the government should be going after, because whatever anyone thinks of big businesses that maybe don't pay as much tax as some people would like, as long as those businesses pay tax within the framework of the law, I have no problem with it, personally. But I have a major problem with people like this, And I find it completely and utterly unbelievable, yet totally believable, that it would be the Bulgarian authorities that highlight it to us, rather than us having the ability to determine
having
this for
something
ourselves.
in the system that would point this out.
Absolutely.
I mean, and also the bare-faced audacity of her claiming benefits. Literally, I was like,
I was going to say, I think you're as speechless as me. How can you? What can you possibly say about it? How can you?
I mean, people are kicked off benefits if they work 1 hour over. You know, if they've got more than 14 grand in savings or
I confess,
whatever.
I don't know what the figure is off the top of my head.
I think it's 14 to 16,000. But you know, and they're biffed off and they're treated really, you know, harshly, like they're scumbags. And yet this literal scumbag, who admitted, pled guilty to this, of stealing this money, is back on benefits. Why are we paying her
I wish
benefits?
I could say it's unbelievable, but it's kind of not. I absolutely believe it. I find it abhorrent. I find it sickening. You know, when we contemplate that there are former army veterans who have to sleep rough on the streets because allegedly there's no money to help them, but yet apparently we've got enough money for some revolting excuse of an individual to fraudulently claim £54 million of taxpayers' money. And look, okay, I don't deny that every single person who is on benefits, and I'm not going to start suggesting that they are fraudulent, of course they're not. I know that there's the vast majority of people who are on benefits are not, but I certainly don't believe for a second that every single person who does claim benefits does so either A, legitimately because they've managed to get away with something, or B, absolutely needs it. And that's what concerns me.
I would agree with you, but I mean, how do we root this out? I mean, honestly, it's $9.5 billion a year that is removed in fraud. $9.5 billion. I mean, you think of the tax rises that we've just had to endure for a second time.
Absolutely.
So it was 40 billion the first budget, 26 billion this budget. And the government seems to be very keen, doesn't it? Any government, all governments, at just making these mistakes and having us pay for them.
Totally. And that's the problem, is there would be nothing wrong with raising taxes if I thought for a second that the management of taxpayer money was to the highest degree. But I absolutely don't. I think it's to the lowest possible degree. I actually believe that it is so mismanaged that we can't even begin to understand, no one can begin to understand how badly it's mismanaged, because it's sort of almost like divvied out so rapidly and now this is actually part of the biggest problem I have with the idea of I've forgotten the word. What's it called? You know, when they're starting to dish out to local authorities, is it devolution or whatever?
Devolution.
This is one of the biggest problems I have with the devolution of power, is because
it's just another layer of corruption.
It's even harder for government to control spending if they're just going to hoof out lumps of money to local authorities. And then I could almost guarantee those local authorities will not have to submit stringent tax returns
not. And they all
to justify
get
the
away with
money.
It. And this is what absolutely hacks me off so badly, is that most of us pay tax knowing that this is a system that we've agreed to live under, where we support those who are weaker than ourselves and who need to be helped. We enjoy free universal healthcare, free universal education, and I think those are absolutely vital to any survival of democracy. But stop, if I can use the colloquial, spaffing our money wherever you want to.
Yes.
Stop it. Just stop. It's coming up to that time of year for me. I have to pay tax in advance of earning it. You know, and you go, okay,
well, the way
fine,
that we pay
the
taxes
system.
is done on anticipation.
There's more and more tax going out, and you think, okay, well, the bills are going up. I understand people have got less money than me, and I'm happy to help them, genuinely. But when I see this kind of waste, when I see HS2, when I see these huge infrastructure costs...
Well, I have to say, I'm quite one of those unusual people. I don't have a problem with HS2 in principle, but where I couldn't bear HS2 was the number of politics that got in the way of its development. Now, had it just been allowed to go ahead...
Oh, no, the consultants already creamed off all their money, the consultants and the lawyers.
No, I know for sure, but what I mean is that if we hadn't allowed policies to get in the way with a number of people who say, you can't really build infrastructure on green and pleasant land, and now we've got a government who's got no hesitation whatsoever in saying they're going to potentially remove the green belt in favour of building houses, rather than actually say to people, no, we've let far too many people into this country who probably shouldn't be here, and that's actually how we can curb the demand for housing. It's all these kind of principles that stand in the way of progression in this country, and as far as HS2 is concerned, yes, it absolutely was a waste of money, but let's be honest, the biggest waste of money was the toing and froing of different parties saying, well, no, we can't do this because of this.
Yeah, but any government touches in terms of infrastructure is a disaster. Everything is too expensive. And by the way, you're talking about kicking people out of the country. In order for Rachel Reeves to reach the tax take that she now needs, we're going to have more people.
Yeah, totally. So it's just unbelievable.
That's what came out last week. Was it's going to have to be more people, more migration. More foreign nationals in order...
Which, of course, by the way, it doesn't, but that's what they want us to believe.
That's what they want us to believe. Right, let's take a quick break, and Phil and I'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And with me in the studio is Phil Dave, our very own broadcaster and editor, to go through the newspapers. So, The Times. UK's troops set to swoop on Kremlin's shadow fleet. This is a deal that Keir Starmer has clearly done with Donald Trump.
Yeah, so British special forces are being lined up apparently to storm Russian shadow fleet vessels.
On behalf of America?
Yes.
Good.
Well, yeah, because we've got a much stronger army than America, let's be honest.
Fit into their shoebox.
Elite soldiers trained to apparently to deal with ships.
It'll be SBS, won't it?
Would have thought, yeah. Ships and helicopters, and capture their crews, could target hundreds of illegal oil tankers after the government identified a new legal basis for the raids. Look, I personally think that we are completely missing the biggest threat to the Western world at the moment, and I don't believe for a second that it's Putin who's just chucking his toys out the pram and hoping for the best. Because I think if Putin was going to invade NATO countries, he would have done so by now.
No, he wouldn't, not until America backs out of NATO.
Well, one way or another, he hasn't done it yet. And the way I look at it is that there's a much bigger threat facing us.
He's waiting for Trump to leave NATO.
Maybe.
I'm telling you.
But there's also the biggest problem is that we face is Iran. So as much as I understand why people are flapping at the prospect of America weighing in Iran, and obviously all the sites we're seeing at the moment of the uprising against the government there, it is essential that we recognise the threat that that regime poses on Western life. And until we get our heads around it and realise that they are actually the source of so much misery in this world, it is unbelievable.
Terrorism across the globe, yeah.
Absolutely. Until we realise that, then nothing's going to change. So Putin, look, I personally believe that he's all mouth and no trousers. I think that the reason why he felt emboldened to invade Ukraine is because no one ever took him on when he annexed Crimea back in 2014, I think it was. And so this is sort of why he's gone as far as he has. But successive governments, typical of the West, bit lily-livered, bit, oh no, let's talk, peace is the answer. Yeah, okay, peace is the answer.
Well, we know appeasement doesn't work. We tried that in the Second World War.
Absolutely, peace is the answer if both sides want peace. But I'm afraid Putin and his sort don't. But to keep hurling money towards Ukraine in the hope that they're going to be able to push back against Russia is pointless. But at the same time, I still say Iran is the bigger threat first. And that's what we should be prioritising. So I understand that we're fighting a war currently on two fronts, even though we're not fighting at all. But we should be concerned about both fronts, but we should be more concerned about.
Yeah, Iran. I mean, this isn't just protests in Iran. This is revolution that is happening. And you know, there are Russian planes flying in and out of Tehran at the moment, probably thieving all the gold, which is what happened in Syria, if you remember, just before Assad left. So there are suspicions that just one of those flights, the Ayatollah and his mullahs, will be
I'm sure they will.
On their way out. I think they know that this is
they
different
know this is
this
different.
time.
Absolutely.
And I'm a non-religious person, but you know, and euphemistically, I pray that the Iranian people finally get peace from these lunatics and this theocracy that has been destroying Iran.
So I have said for so long now, more than I care to remember, that for every single one of those idiots out there who chanted Free Palestine, which, as we know, does not exist, so people can cry it as much as they want, but it's not a country, it doesn't exist. If they would have actually spent that time crying Free Persia, that actually could have done an awful lot of good. Because by supporting the Persian people...
Well, there have been lots of demonstrations in London, haven't there?
Totally and utterly, yeah. But if they would have supported the Persian people, the true Persians, you know, people who obviously some might identify as Iranian now, but the awful truth is that most of those people are actually just oppressed Persians. But if they would have actually chanted Free Persia, or even Free Iran, if you so wish to recognise it being called Iran, then I would suggest that actually that would have solved a lot of the misery for people who identify as Palestinian. And this is what baffles me about the West, is that had they have realised that the head of the proverbial octopus is Iran and the Iranian regime, they actually could have saved an awful lot of untold misery to not just the Middle East, but actually an awful lot of the Western world as well.
But if we just go back to the Russia thing for a moment, there's a will in this country, and I've done these phone-ins a lot, just not to get involved to that level with Russia, because Russia is calling this piracy. And is saying that it's illegal action, and if we get involved with this shadow fleet of tankers on behalf of Trump, because this is what Trump wants, are we in danger of pulling ourselves even more into focus with Russia?
Yeah, well, I definitely think we need to think very carefully about what action we take, if any, with Russia, because I don't believe that is our war. I don't believe it's our problem.
But I also don't believe that Russia will attack America, because Trump will, you know, it'll be gloves off. But I think that he would quite happily attack Britain.
Who, Putin would?
Yeah.
Probably, but that's because he sees the British leadership as weak.
Yeah.
That's the only reason.
Well, he sees the whole
it's
of
exactly
Europe
the same way. But it's exactly the same way as he sees Ukraine as weak. And let's be honest, you know, Vladimir Zelensky.
Well, that's punched him in the face, isn't it?
Well, I mean, yeah, but Vladimir Zelensky, whatever people might think, of course, I don't believe for a second that Russia should have invaded Ukraine. Of course, they shouldn't have done. I don't think it's all black and white as to say that Vladimir Zelensky is the greatest leader ever, but because if he really wanted to end the war with Russia, I don't think he would have sort of gone travelling halfway around the world like some sort of global celebrity in quite the way he has pretending to garner support, and I don't believe for a second he's actually really got much more than when he started. I think most people automatically...
He was looking for money to defend his land against the aggressor, who had an army that was, 3 times the size.
But he sort of automatically had that almost. The number of people who jumped to the defence of Ukraine anyway, without him having to do that. It feels to me as though he hasn't done all he could do to end this.
Oh, I fundamentally and completely disagree. Having studied geopolitics and looking at war, I think he's been extraordinary. I don't think he's been faultless, but I think I think what he's managed to do is 4 years. It's coming up to 4 years now, and Putin thought it'd be over in 4 days, or 4 weeks max. So I think they've done an extraordinary job. But anyway, let's have a look at what's this headline? I can barely read it. Fury over Labour's payout to Herma's Guantanamo client. Backlash as government approves substantial compensation to terror suspect once represented by Attorney General.
Indeed, yes. So a terror suspect who was represented by Keir Starmer's law chief has been handed a substantial payout by the UK, sparking outrage last night. So this particular individual, who was detained by the US authorities since his capture in 2002 in the wake of 9/11, launched a legal fight claiming that Britain was complicit in his torture by the CIA. And what have we done? We've given him a payout. Well done, Britain. Lovely.
Well, he absolutely... There's no excuse for torture. But I don't
care less about this individual.
I just don't... Well, I mean, he was a suspect. Not found guilty.
No smoke without fire.
Yes, there is. That is a nonsense statement. Of course there is. So he launched a legal fight claiming that Britain... I don't know how Britain was complicit. I'd have to look at the papers. But it's not acceptable. Torture is not accepted by the West, and neither should it be to anyone. So, and then there's a lovely picture of
neither
Owen
are payouts
Cooper.
to suspected terrorists.
Well, suspected, yeah. There are plenty of people in jail who are not guilty, and there are probably plenty of people in Guantanamo Bay equally not guilty.
So if he's found not guilty, then I support the payout. Until that time, not interested.
Okay, fair enough. British are coming. Adolescent star Owen Cooper, 16 years old, with George Clooney.
Yes, and I've got to be honest, I have seen the series Adolescence, and as good as it was, I'm slightly surprised by how much it has won.
Really? I
good,
thought he was absolutely mind-blowing. Honestly, that the scene with the sandwich was extraordinary. The nuance that he got. And you've got to remember...
Excuse me.
This was all shot in one shot.
Yes. No,
so he had to remember all those lines for all of those scenes. I mean, he was... And this is a boy who, whenever he gets his awards, he always says, I was the only boy in my drama class and everybody laughed at me. And you're kind of thinking, well, they're not laughing now, are they, mate? Yeah. I mean, he is off and running. Apparently he's in the middle of his GCSEs or studying GCSEs, and he has to fly off.
Good on him. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it wasn't impressive. I'm not saying it wasn't good acting. I just say it's extraordinary how much it's won. That's all.
I mean, sometimes a story just hits, doesn't it? And I think this is what this has done, and it was so brilliantly acted by everybody. And the fact that, I mean, I watched it once just to enjoy the drama, and then I watched it again to appreciate the directing. And
okay, I've only seen it once.
Oh, you need to, because we're not really observant of the fact that it was all shot in one shot. But when you actually, when you're watching the story, I was just engrossed in the story. But then I watched it again to watch how it was filmed. I mean, I was thinking, oh my God.
Well, there definitely had to be edit points. It was not possible to do all of that faultlessly.
But
it was very
when you see the scene,
the way.
That's what I'm saying, is when you watch it and you know where those edit points have to be, because they've changed.
Yes, they've changed direction. So, like, for example, they look away to a tree and then come back again, kind of thing.
No, there were no edits. No edits in those shots at all. Where there were edits were when it cut from the house and them talking to then the prison. That would be the only edit point. But every other thing you saw was all one shot with with the cameras following them around.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And actors to perform it within that boundary as well, I just think is extraordinary. But good on him. Youngest ever Golden Globe Award winner.
Can't say fairer than that.
Can't say fairer than that.
That's one for the CV.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to need a CV. Yeah. I think he's off and running. I don't think he'll probably have to audition from now on. I think he's just one of those kids who's just going to go on and on and on. Right, The Independent, Starmer gives Musk ultimatum to end shameful AI images.
I have quite a controversial view about this, which doesn't go down very well with everyone, but there is something that greatly worries me about this, is that there's an awful lot of focus on computer-generated images, which, make no mistake, the subjects and the style of which are disgusting to anyone who's normal. But what worries me terribly is that there are children out there who genuinely are abused for real, in terms of sexually and in terms of revolting images. And what I worry about is that this distracts from that.
Or this feeds that, unfortunately.
It also, yes, it may even encourage it.
It does encourage it.
So as much as I understand that this is abhorrent and has to be stopped, I hope that people don't use this as either an excuse to, as you say, to increase that sort of level of activity, but worse, almost to waste police resources on what are ultimately fake images, where actually, thank goodness, potentially, no one has had to, if you like, go through any harm to actually have these images created.
The problem with that is if you've got somebody who's prepared to buy the AI-generated images of children or women being abused, then that is somebody who's prepared to buy real images as well.
You don't misunderstand me. It has to be stopped, of course it does. But what I'm saying is I worry about that if too much time and effort and resource goes on trying to stop this, does that then deprive the resource needed to actually combat the actual abuse going on? For those who are genuinely taking actual inappropriate photos of children, for those who are actually abusing them in the most revolting way.
I mean, this is an interesting one because a lot of people are saying, oh, this is about freedom and blah blah. This is exactly what Musk is saying and what America is saying. But you've got people who they can take an image of any woman that they want to, and with this technology can have her naked. And there's a lot of people that, with your argument, you might say, well, she's not really naked. They've just made her look naked.
But
well,
if that was correct.
Yes, but if that was me and my image was out there, a naked image of me that I hadn't consented to.
No, totally. Which is why non-consensual imagery must be made illegal.
It is, and they're using women as well with AI in pornography. So you've not just got a still image of a woman that they want to see. They want to see a woman being raped or abused. They're using her image on AI in order to make that a reality. So although that woman isn't actually being raped, they're using her image for that purpose. I can't think of many things more disturbing.
No, please don't misunderstand me. It is disturbing, it is revolting, and it absolutely must be stopped. But what I'm saying is I don't want people to confuse this kind of imagery with the actual abuse that goes on for people who are taking genuine photos of that nature. That's what worries me, is there's going to be this blurred line that people are going to be forgiven for thinking that something that's AI generated means that an individual, they may go through an awful lot of mental anguish for being, or for discovering that their images are being used in such a horrible way. Of course they will. But the actual abuse that goes on to children or women who are sexually abused through possibly even having sort of photos taken or whatever it is not to be confused with something that's AI generated.
I agree with that. But, you've got some paedophiles right now who are looking at these images and going, oh, they're not real. They're not real.
No,
it's not real children being abused. I'm just looking at a 2-year-old being raped. That's fine. That's not real.
No, and again, never, ever, ever would I justify anything like that?
But they are potentially justifying that to themselves.
Fine. And then in my humble opinion, those people deserve to be chemically castrated.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? Humble opinion.
Actually, I just think 2 bricks.
There is...
Just...
Anyway.
I'd do it.
There is definitely... I laugh out of nerves at the prospect of that, but anyway. But there is no doubt about it. Of course, it has to be stopped. Yeah. And Musk has got an awful lot to answer for if he thinks that this is to do with freedom of expression.
Yeah, well, he's removed it from non-paying members of Twitter.
Yes. So, but that's arguably that's arguably even worse.
Yes, I agree.
That's arguably even worse because then it means that you can still do it, but now you have to pay for it.
Yeah, but also he's proved that it can be removed.
Yeah.
So it's just like, but if you want to strip somebody of their clothing, then you have to pay for it, which is disgusting.
It's grim, but like I said, I don't want it to detract from the individuals who genuinely do go through abuse.
Yeah, I
don't want it compared to the actual abuse that someone would go through if they were having genuine photos taken.
It bears comparison, but I also think that
mental anguish maybe, but not the actual physical abuse that comes with those people who actually. But
like I said, it's that whole chicken and egg thing. It just feeds that sickness, and then people justify that sickness by saying, "Oh, well, they're just made up," and I didn't really do anything wrong.
No, totally, honestly. The individual. There's many factors at play here, and if an individual believes that it is in any way acceptable to AI generate inappropriate images of whether it be women in bikinis or without clothes on at all, or men without clothes on for that matter as well, or of children, whatever it may be, there is something very sick and very wrong with that individual that needs dealing with. That's separate. What my worry is that the fuss that is to some degree rightly being made over everything to do with Grok and its ability to do this in the first place should not be a distraction or comparable to those who actually go through sexual abuse or actually have inappropriate images taken of them, because they will never go through the same thing as those true, I don't like the word victims, but true victims of that kind of abuse would go through. They might not like it. It may be mentally very anguish. They may be very anguished, of course, understandably so, but they would not go through the level of horrendous abuse that some individual who has actually had inappropriate images taken of them.
I don't think it'll ever replace that. It shouldn't be called Grok. It should be called Grot.
Well, quite.
Quick break. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you and with me, Phil Dave. Let's turn our attention to the Sun newspaper. Fuel pumps to start vanishing within 4 years. Diesel will start vanishing from petrol stations in 4 years under the rush to net zero. Forecourts will replace tanks with electric vehicle chargers. How's that going to work? They're going to be blocking the alleyway.
Be horrendous, because electric vehicles charge the absolute quickest.
40 minutes.
Yeah, well, no, the absolute quickest that some vehicles can charge is 10 minutes. That's the absolute quickest, and even then, it is questionable as to whether or not they give enough charge to justify only 10 minutes of charge. So it really is a far cry from filling up with petrol, like obviously is
which takes
considerably much quicker.
5 minutes and then you're off. Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes not even that. But with diesel, I have a major problem with this because there are diesel vehicles out there. There are people who will need diesel fuel, whether we like it or not. And fair enough, they've stopped selling cars that have diesel engines, but that does not mean that all those drivers who, let's not forget, were encouraged by the government to go diesel.
They were told to go and buy diesel.
Right, they were encouraged to buy those vehicles. It does not mean that they're suddenly going to stop needing fuel or that they can miraculously replace those vehicles with another type of car.
Not how broke we all are, no.
I tell you for nothing, I have got zero intention of going electric with my car any time in the near future. As in, like, you would have to seriously persuade me to be able to do that. So I will stick with petrol for as long as possible. I have no intention of going electric, and I know many others who think the same. You only have to look at the figures of the sale of electric vehicles to know that I'm not the only one who thinks like that.
No, I can't bear the electric anxiety that people get watching the battery.
The thing with range anxiety, which I find slightly amusing, is of course that if one is lucky enough to have a driveway, which I appreciate neither you nor I do have, but if one is lucky enough to have a driveway, that is actually their filling station, technically. Because
it's cheaper because they don't pay VAT on it.
They charge it overnight, so that is one way around it. So I understand people who don't have access to a driveway or a guaranteed parking space would indeed get range anxiety because that's legitimate. I can't understand people who have a driveway who get range anxiety because actually that's their forecourt, that's their filling station.
Yeah, except that, you know, if you're going on a long journey and it's a really cold day or it's a really hot day and you want the aircon on, or a cold day and you want the heating on, that drains the battery down.
Yeah, but then again, a lot of places, a lot of the service stations, what are they called? A lot of the motorway services do have electric points now. So yes, you might have to stop for about half an hour.
Yes, and who wants to stay in a service station for half an hour?
No one wants to do that. But anyway, it's their own
let the boys out for a wee, and then we're off.
Stupid fault for buying an electric car. I'm sorry, it's just true. So as far as I'm concerned, if people stop buying electric cars altogether, then there would be no forced into this. The reason why is because people have fallen for the nonsense rhetoric that comes around buying an electric vehicle. And if people think that they are saving the environment or saving the planet by going electric, you only need to look at it like this. How much fossil fuel is burnt making an electric car? Because believe me, those factories, they ain't powered by electricity. I completely promise you that.
I mean, I tell you what, though, and they cross the globe several times as well. I once read that a Prius can take something like 70 years to repay the carbon footprint.
Lovely. Well, there you go. So absolute waste of time. So as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I think that sort of with the idea of the vanishing diesel pumps, this is a very different scenario to when we said, for example, goodbye to 4-star petrol. There's one for the kids. Because with 4-star, it was possible to put a converter in unleaded into 4-star tanks to make them take unleaded petrol.
What cars had 4-star?
Oh, my mum had a car that had 4-star.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Was that a posh car?
No, it was a nice little Nissan Sunny. It was a 4-star.
Oh.
Yeah. So she used to fill up with 4-star. And then when she was told that, when we were all told that 4-star was on the way out, was it in the early 90s, mid-90s,
and then you used to be able to choose between leaded and unleaded. Can you still choose between leaded and unleaded?
Well, isn't 4-star leaded or unleaded? I thought that was the whole point. I thought 4-star was leaded petrol. Or unless I've got that wrong, but that's what I thought 4-star was.
And now it's unleaded. It's all unleaded.
Yes, it's all unleaded.
Yeah.
That's what I assumed.
I remember you used to be able to choose between leaded and unleaded. But
yeah, but that's what I thought 4-star was. I don't know. I'm really not sure. But anyway, my point being is when 4-star was phased out, there was a converter that one could put into a tank, a 4-star tank, to make it unleaded compatible. And the problem with diesel vehicles is you cannot do that.
No.
The engine is diesel, it will not run on unleaded. So what happens to all of these vehicles? If people are that worried about the environment, where do all of these scrap cars go?
I know. Environmentally, it doesn't make any sense. Emissions-wise, it does, but environmentally, it doesn't.
And when people say it's a rush to net zero, we need to also wake up and realise that net zero is a fallacy. It's an impossibility.
It is impossible. Yeah, it is impossible. It is actually not. It can't be done at all. Right, unless we go back to the Dark Ages, of course. Right, The Guardian, ADHD care costs soar as the NHS turns to the private sector. The NHS is overspending by 164 million a year on attention deficit hyperactivity disorder services, with an increasing amount going to unregulated private assessments. Analysis shows that total spending on NHS ADHD services is expected to be more than double existing budgets. Further data shows the amount spent on private ADHD services has more than tripled. Well, that's because people can't get the assessments through the NHS, so they fast track to the private sector to get an assessment because it means more in benefits.
Well, there is an element to that, but I also, again, have a slightly more unpopular view with this. And as much as I do understand that ADHD is absolutely a thing, I also know that in a world where we live in with a complete lack of discipline and where teachers are not allowed to be strict with pupils anymore, where parents are not really allowed to discipline their children anymore, it doesn't strike me as a coincidence that ADHD is used as an excuse to almost justify some people's behaviour. Now, I'm not saying...
I completely agree.
I'm absolutely not saying
not
that it doesn't
every child
exist.
that's been found to have ADHD has got ADHD.
Absolutely. I believe that half of it, I don't know half, that's not fair and it's not an accurate comparison, so ignore that. I'm not saying half. But a good number that I am not aware of what the exact number is, I believe, are suffering from a lack of discipline in their lives. That's what I personally believe it is. And I can't help but feel as though that there would be a considerable saving to the NHS and indeed bring down these waiting lists.
Test for it. That's the problem.
Absolutely, but you would be amazed at the number of these individuals who supposedly have ADHD, who I dare say would start improving their behaviour if they were exposed to the right level of discipline. Believe me, like when I was a child, I was disciplined to the nth degree, whether at school or at home, and nothing was ever physical. It was just very, very strict. And with that strict discipline, I'd like to think that I turned out reasonably okay.
Really?
Reasonably.
Really? I sure.
Oh, look, okay. Let's put it this way. There's room for improvement, but it's not as bad as it could be.
It's not as bad as it could be. I think we'll go with that. Okay. Just before we go to the break, there's a reverse takeover of Reform. I think this is a plan that all the Tories are going to move to Reform, and then Reform is just going to be the Tories.
I can understand why people think that, but I don't believe for a second that it would be allowed to happen based on that Reform will obviously have to come up with a manifesto that is relevant to its voters. And if they're just going to use the existing Conservatives' policies, then they're just going to wind up losing the votes as well. So I don't think that will happen. I think if it's more traditional Conservative values...
Right, who are you voting for? So say this continues...
I'm not going to reveal that.
No. I mean, if there's this reverse takeover of Reform, right, so all of these Tories flee a sinking ship, which is what politicians do, right, they've got no...
I don't trust that personally. I think that they are just career politicians. They see Reform rising, they don't care.
Absolutely, they don't care. They have got no strict moral... They're just going, right, where can I survive?
Exactly.
Right? So they're not really that into their own policies or politics. So, but say this keeps going and you've got like hundreds of Tories in there, and then you go to the they're still the same people. So it's like, who are you actually voting for?
But of course the difference being, though, is that if they are a part of Reform UK...
Conform.
Then they have to... Oh, conform. There you go.
Conform.
Oh, there you go. That's being written down. That's one for the notebook.
Conform.
So, if they are being...
That's who they should be. Conform.
Yes. But if they are joining Reform UK, then they will have to comply with Reform UK policies, because if they don't, well, then Reform just aren't going to stand a chance of the polls.
I just think a party is who works in it, and actually Reform more than any. The party is fair.
Well, where I think I would be very worried if I were Nigel Farage is that by letting all of these former career Tories in, are they just going to stand in the way and not vote with him for any policies he tries to implement?
Who knows these days? I mean, that could be the plot. Destroy it from within. The Trojan
But then it also doesn't help when you have Nigel Farage making promises that we know he absolutely can't keep. So, for example, the most recent one being certainly one that I was speaking about not so long ago over Christmas New Year, was that he was talking about how any civil servant who has been found to knowingly let in any murderer or rapist into the country based on migration would have their pension status stripped from them. Well, unfortunately, Mr. Farage, that's not true, because you'd have to change an awful lot of laws in order to make that happen, but he never mentioned the laws that would have to be changed in order to make that happen.
Yeah, he just says what sounds popular.
I was going to say, he said the soundbite that actually would sound good. And when I even confronted Layla Cunningham, who I was speaking to about that at the time, she sort of struggled with an answer for it as well, because I think she realised that unfortunately it wasn't possible, but didn't want to admit it. So now, like, I'm not putting words in her mouth, so obviously not here to answer that, but that was the impression I got, and the clip is out there, you can watch that. But my point being is that if they're going to start making promises they can't keep, well, then reform are just going to fall as much as the Tories have done.
Yeah, exactly. And with all those Tories in there, all scraping around, trying to save their own backsides, it's not a good look. It's not a good look, and it doesn't make people want to vote for them. So there you go. Let's take a break, and Phil and I'll be back in just a second.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here, and with me is Phil Dave, editor and broadcaster. The Daily Telegraph, China's embassy's secret threat to the city. Starmer expected to approve Beijing's plans before meeting Xi later this week. Is there anyone in this world that Starmer won't suck up to?
No.
Okay.
Next.
Right,
no, actually, well, he won't suck up to Donald Trump, because that might do us some good. But no, he's exceptionally good at getting into bed with the wrong sort, that's for sure. But not that I suppose Trump gets into bed with the right sort, but you know what I mean. China is to build a hidden chamber alongside Britain's most sensitive communication cables as part of a network of 208 secret rooms beneath its new London super embassy.
What could go wrong?
I just don't understand why we don't treat China with the caution that we should be treating them with.
Absolutely.
They're not even subtle about the way they're trying to take control of an awful lot of this world. And what is worse is we have spent successive decades handing a lot of our industry to them. And so, as much as I understand why people like stuff that's cheap, I get that completely, and I would be lying if I didn't say that I have also purchased things that were made in China.
I don't think you can get away without doing
Well, I was going to say, I don't believe in boycotts because I believe that, that there are people who work in these industries who need,
well, the Chinese workers are on strike at the moment.
Yeah, who need income. So I actually think that boycotts are a very pathetic way of sort of showing disgust towards something.
I'm boycotting American goods.
Oh, I don't personally agree with boycotts. However, my point being...
With South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
It worked with South Africa to end apartheid.
Well, anyway, my point being is that, look, I'll never to get me started on South Africa. South Africa is not the haven it should be.
No, I know.
So, anyway, my point being is that as much as I don't personally agree with boycotts, I would suggest that actually this is more shame on the British government, successive British governments, for thinking it is okay to hand our economy, hand over our manufacturing to another country.
There's the nuclear power plants as well being, potentially built by China. I mean, there's an awful lot.
And there's obviously something that we know that is amiss because all of that fuss that was made over Huawei, when they were going to potentially put the 5G masts in, and we put a stop to that. So they obviously know that they can't trust, yet they still carry on.
I just think it's just sucking up again. The iPaper, every paper's gone with a different front page. It's interesting. UK under 16s could be banned from social media within months. The government is open to following Australia with a UK-wide ban.
Good. Excellent. Get on with it. Shouldn't waste any time. I've said for ages social media has ruined this country and the world over. I think that we need to be tough on it. I think that we need to seriously restrict who has access to it. And I also believe we should go further than that. I don't think under 16s. I actually think it should be under 18s should be banned. I furthermore think that to anyone who is going to sign up to social media, I believe they should have a bank account. And I think that they should have to give that bank account as proof that they are of legal age. And I think that if someone misuses social media, they should automatically be fined for misusing it. This would crack down instantly on all of these fake accounts that are out there, because people wouldn't just be able to create them if they saw there was a bank account that was associated with that individual. Therefore they say, oh no, you've already got a Facebook account, oh no, you've already got a Twitter account, you've already got so on and so forth.
Wouldn't that preclude a lot of poor people who don't have bank accounts though?
Whatever it takes to prove they can use, if they want national ID, they could use whatever it may be, whether it's passport, driver's licence, whatever. There is a way around it. There is a way of getting really, really tough on saying who can have access to social media, and more importantly, it would also mean that the social media would then be answerable because they wouldn't have all of these fake accounts that they can't keep tabs on. But of course they won't do this because I'm afraid it will lose them billions in revenue. Yeah.
And also new guidelines, this is depressing, have also been announced for technology use for under 5s.
Great. I mean, I've seen it. No, but I've seen it. My nephews are a classic example of that. The number of times when sort of we all get together as a family, and no disrespect to my sister and brother-in-law, also their children, they must bring them up the way they see fit. But I find it absolutely baffling how at the table I was always taught, sit there, engage, converse, and they're just given their phones, or not their phones, iPads. But they're given phones or tablets or whatever it may be that obviously belong to my sister or brother-in-law, and that's what keeps them entertained. And it's almost a digital babysitter, and I can't bear it.
I did use the square babysitter when I was when my son was younger, the television, but it's slightly less.
Yeah, but that you can't have that at the dining table.
No, exactly. There was none of that.
What's that actually going to do for social interaction?
Oh, it's going to destroy it and critical thinking. But I think that's the plan. Daily Star. Let's go to the Daily Star. Axed chef latest. Greg Wallace, sorry, not sorry. He says, sacked Greg Wallace apologised for his MasterChef antics, then defended gags about spotted dick, nuts and little tarts. Greg, mate, that's not really being sorry. The comment that he won't get away with is blaming all women of a certain age for being upset with him. That's what did for him, really.
Look, I think, no pun intended, he's got his just desserts, so I think it's time
just move on.
I think it's time to forget Greg Wallace now.
Yeah, I completely...
I'm afraid that sort of antic has come back to bite him in the backside. Yeah. Actually, no, probably not. He might enjoy that, allegedly. But it's let's move on from it. So I don't see why we even think it's okay now to start, not we as in talk, I mean we as in like the great media, think it's necessary to give individuals like that publicity after they've been exposed for who they are.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just go away, Greg. You had your moment. The world has moved on. The Daily Express, tell truth on fantasy cost of net zero push. Ed Miliband's net zero project could cost land the taxpayer, with a huge bill of £9 trillion. He could be the next Chancellor. Have you seen that? They're discussing whether he's the next Chancellor or
completely
not.
Joyous. Look, I mean, if you thought Rachel Reeves was bad, look, I think it's actually sort of high time that the Great British Public and actually the world over woke up to the scam that is net zero. It is just an excuse to tax the bejesus out of everyone, and people are falling for it, and I think it's pathetic. You know, the awful truth is, as we said before, net zero is impossible. It will never happen. You're never going to achieve zero carbon emission. And if you think you are, you're wrong, you're mad. And as far as I'm concerned, this is actually probably sort of the greenest this country has ever been in the history of its existence.
And I think it's good that we're going greener, but I think that I agree. I think that net zero is a joke.
I don't like the idea of it costing us millions. I don't want
trillions.
Well, quite trillions.
Trillions.
I don't want to go green for the sake of a couple of tree huggers. I want it to be the sensible thing that actually it means it benefits all of us financially, rather than
and cleans up. I mean, we need to be cleaner. Phil, Dave, thank you very much indeed. Right, stay where you are, because next it's your chance to talk back.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning. This is Talk Back with me, Petrie, and this is, as it says, this is your chance to talk back. You've been listening all day, maybe one or two of you have got through, but this is a full hour now that all we do is take calls, and I read your texts as well. So if you'd like to get in touch, it is really, really easy. The number you're going to need is 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you back, and text the word talk and your message to 87222. The conversation I want to have with you this morning, because this is a story, literally this morning when I was sort of trying to wake myself up with coffee, this woke me up. A Bulgarian woman who took part in Britain's biggest ever benefits fraud has made a mockery of taxpayers by now claiming universal credit after being released from jail. Svetlana Todorova was jailed for 3 years in May 2024 for her role in the conspiracy, which stole more than £54 million from us, the taxpayer. But the 54-year-old has returned to her London home now and signed on to universal credit. It's nice, isn't it? Aren't we kind? Is that kind or stupid? Signed on to universal credit alongside her husband, who she says receives £1,300 per month. Speaking from the rented flats that we clearly pay for, Todorova vowed to fight efforts to deport her back to Bulgaria and boasted about her taxpayer-funded lifestyle. She told the Daily Mail, "I don't want to leave Britain. My family's here. I love it here. It's good and it's helped me." Well, you mean you've helped yourself? I mean, that's pretty much what you mean. "I've been back on benefits since December the 30th. It'll be about £200 a month. I don't have the right to work." I don't care that you don't have the right to work. I genuinely don't. I don't care. You stole from us. You stole from the taxpayer. So why on earth do you think we should give you anything? I mean, £200 a month is still £200 a month. And your husband's getting £1,300 a month. And you'll be getting your flat paid for and your everything else paid for. Prescriptions, dental work, all of that goes with it. It's not just the £200. There's all the other stuff that goes with it. And we're paying you that even though you stole from us £54 million, which, by the way, this wondrous government is not even going to bother to try and get back. I think we're going to get 2 million maximum. That's what they've asked for. Not the full 54 million. And by the way, we didn't even notice this fraud that went on for 4.5 years. We didn't even notice it. It was people in Bulgaria who spotted, some copper in Bulgaria spotted that a lot of criminals in his area were suddenly very rich. And he didn't know where the money came from, so he kind of went, "Oh, is that coming from you?" It's like, oops, yeah. Oh yeah, it is. 54 million, but it would still be going on, presumably. Which proves that the system is so broken that it is pointless continuing with the same system. You've got to scrap the whole thing and start again. Because if we don't even notice 54 million being lifted from us, in fact, that is a drop in the ocean compared to the full amount that is stolen from us yearly. It is 9.5 billion taken from us, stolen from us, defrauded from us. And the system doesn't even seem to care. You know why? Because it's not the government's money, it's our money, isn't it? It's us. So what they do when they stuff up in this way and they lose all this money, they just come back to us for more tax. Simple. We're the cash machine. Oh yeah, sorry we muffed up HS2, which now won't be speedier. It won't be faster. We're just going to call it 2, because we can't call it high speed anymore. We're going to call it 2, because that's potentially how many stations that will be built by the time I die. And that's cost, what, £40 billion? Yeah, stuff like that. That doesn't matter. That's what they do with our money. Now, I'm happy to pay tax. I genuinely am. Well, I say that until the tax bill comes, then I'm not happy. But you know what I mean? I know what ideally what it's supposed to be used for, and it's supposed to be used for education and health and welfare for people who desperately need it, and I'm happy to do it. I think that is the mark of a functioning democracy, where we support the weaker and the poorer in our communities. That is exactly what this is meant to be. But that isn't what it is. We're leeching money. People are stealing from us, robbing from us blind. So if you've defrauded the taxpayer, should you ever be able to claim benefits ever again? Should that extend to not, you not being able to use education? Or, I mean, I just think it's disgusting. Why are you defrauding us? Do you think that people who deliberately defraud, I'm talking about accidents, should ever get benefits again? And have you ever been overpaid? Because some of this money, it is separated out actually, but a lot of money that goes as well is incompetence, is people being overpaid. What happened to you when you were overpaid? How did that play out? Have you been underpaid? Have you ever discovered that? Or have you ever been accused of fraud when you've made a mistake, a genuine mistake? Give me a call. 0344 499 1000. So Wendy is in Dorset. Hello, Wendy. Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Petrie. Lovely to speak to you.
And
Thank
you.
you very much for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah, the scenario is in 2022, we'd up sticks, on our way to move into Dorset from Oxfordshire. A month before we moved, I had a mini stroke, and we moved to Dorset, Swanage, and my husband was my carer because I was waiting for surgery. So he put in for carer's allowance, quite rightly so, which was £67.90 a week, which he attained that. In the interim period, he was unemployed. I was getting better. Then he got a job, and there was a slight oversight on his behalf. We admitted that. But within a matter of weeks, the DWP jumped straight on us by sending us a letter demanding the overpayment of £500, to which he obviously responded and apologised for the oversight. He just was in a new job. I was recovering from my operation, etc. And they were quite insistent on getting the money back immediately, but we couldn't afford to give them that amount straight away. So we did a payment plan. And we're still paying that payment plan, believe it or not, because my husband decided, being a bit militant, this year become even more militant, with all the costs going on and the government's crisis that they're putting us through. He's agreed to pay them £1 a month, and I think he'll be about 85 by the time he's paid the debt off. But that's just him standing his ground, really, that he's worked since the day dot. He's 60 now, had his own health problems. Well, never claimed a penny in benefit, even when I was ill, and I'm still quite not a well person at the moment. Never claimed benefits. We just used our savings to get by on until he got a gainful employment, which he's now still with the job now, 3.5 years later. But just that comparison that someone can get away with that. And my husband, who's the salt of the earth, looks after me, always has done. And, they jumped on us immediately. He got a job.
And was there a sense that they were
said it's
calling
fraud.
You fraud? Oh, right.
Yeah. And then obviously he got in touch and apologised profusely that I've just got a new job. My wife's been very poorly, which is absolute truth. Anybody that knows us knows that's the gospel. And it made us feel quite sick, really. And I wasn't very well at the time, and thinking that they were accusing you of being a fraudulent person. It was £500.
That is pretty disgusting. I mean, at first you ask, what's happened, right? And you give people the benefit of the doubt. You've just actually reminded me when I think it was last year or the year before, I got a letter, which is very rare. We don't get letters anymore, do we? No. Anyway, I got this letter from some government department with a big fraud written on top, and saying you had a prescription that you didn't pay for, and you've defrauded the British taxpayer out of whatever, and we're fining you £200. And I was like, what are they talking about? And
we've had a similar thing about that with prescriptions as well, with my prescriptions or my husband's you know, and it's really disheartening.
It really was ugly language, really ugly, and I was just like, this is absolute BS. And I looked at it, and luckily I got online banking, and I was able to send them a snapshot of the receipt for said prescription on said day at said hour, said time. Didn't even get an apology from them. No. And I went into the chemist and I said, why did I get this letter? And he said, "Oh, that's our fault because we didn't tick we would have forgotten to tick a box or something. They have to tick something to say that you've paid or you whatever, and they hadn't done that. And they said, "Oh, we're really, really sorry." But the fact that they were so quick to send that out, and literally it was you have defrauded. It wasn't like, "Oh, have you got receipt proof of this?"
No, not at all. No, you just labelled, and it's stigmatised, and it's hurtful. And if you're not a well person, which, you know, I'm not going to reiterate that, but I was pretty poorly. And my husband was being a carer. And even to this day, even though we still owe a little bit extra, still are paying it back to this day, every 6 months they send him a letter.
Really?
This is how much you owe. Can you pay off the amount that is due? I think it's £263 or something still owing. And he said, he rang them up, he thought, well, stick it this time. You can have £1 a month. And they were absolutely insistent. We would like a rundown of all your finances, all your savings, what you've got coming in, what you've got going out. And he said, no, I'm not offering you that. I'm sorry, it's none of your damn business.
Yeah.
You'll get £1 a month and be done with, and that's what he's doing now.
Well, I mean, if only they were that good at paying back tax they owe you. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's all one way, isn't it? If they owe you money, they're pretty slow.
Absolutely, and like I say, without fail, they get a letter every 6 months as a reminder. Yeah. And he's adamant. He said he could probably afford to pay it off, but he said, no, I'm not. I know it's like people, listeners out there saying, oh, you should pay it off. We are paying it off.
Good.
But what is willing to pay back.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been saying as well is, look, you know, the principle about paying tax is that we get value for money, and they're not going after this fraud stuff for £52 million, and yet they're harassing your old man for 200.
Yeah, I mean, he's 60, he's working his arse off, and he works really, really hard. Always has done since he's 15, 16. Never a day off if he's sick or if he has to.
Yeah, I mean, the principle's wrong, isn't it? It's like if you're going to go after your husband in this regard, then go after the 52 million.
2 million. I don't understand it all. The world's gone potty, isn't it?
I mean, literally, we've slipped into a different timeline, Wendy. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what. I mean, we listen to your radio station at night and in the morning, and sometimes we go, I think we need to turn it off because I'm not listening to you guys, what you're talking about. But you think the world's gone potty.
I know. It's like, is this a joke? Is this suddenly a comedy?
Like I don't know where. I mean, you know, and don't start me on immigration or any of that because that just do me right in. But after for another day.
I mean, it's just I just don't understand the level of incompetence in this country. I literally don't get it. I mean,
it's the wastage, the absolute wastage of money. And I said, while I've been here living, we live on a mobile home park site, and most people are of an elderly age. I'm 66 now, well, not that old, but I've got my crockety body. And the people up here, but I've been helping the elderly get attendance allowance, and I've managed to achieve quite a few people to get it. And there's a big pot of money sat there, Petrie, that nobody knows about. And these people are struggling on bugger all pension, and, you know, they're not being told to another dimension altogether, but they're not being told about these benefits that are out there.
Oh, no, the underpayment level is about 1.2 billion a year.
Where's that money? Where's it getting that? Where's it sitting?
Yeah, that's underpaying. And they're not telling people.
No, I told the Labour MP that's a local, I don't think he's the MP for Dorset, Swanage anyway, met him, Lloyd Hatton. I spoke to him, I mentioned to him, I said, you would tell your oiks in the Labour Party about attendance allowance. He said, what on earth is that? I said, you haven't heard of it? That's what you need to please announce it on one of your Labour manifesto thingies or whatever you do on TV now and again to promote yourself about helping people as they keep taking off people.
What is you tell us, what is the attendance allowance?
It's called attendance allowance. It's for people at the pension age. It's not means tested, and it's about £75 per week, and it's to help people within their home, not when they're out, but within their home, if they might need to have a taxi, extra costs for themselves to be at home safely if they've got disabilities or mobility problems. Obviously, a lot of pensioners up here are 70, 80, 90, and they live off their basic pension. And I managed to put the forms are about 45 pages long.
Yeah, they do that deliberately as well, don't they?
They do that deliberately, and it's a bloody minefield. But I'm not working myself on the pension. I've got other health problems as well. I thought, well, I'll set myself a little, way of getting myself within the community, helping people. And it's been great to see their little faces.
Well done,
like
you.
that. 12 people I managed to get it for locally. I'm well chuffed.
Oh, that is brilliant. And that, like you said, it's just sitting there and they need this money and They
need this money. I mean, I was going off a tangent, but say it's all with benefits. It's such a minefield, and there's so many people that are entitled and don't claim. They don't know what to claim. They don't know how to do it.
No, there's a lot of people don't know the system, and if you know the system, you can milk it.
It frightens me when I saw these forms. I'm thinking, these poor old dears and chaps, they don't have computer access and things like that to modern day technology, and I had to fill the forms out by hand with them, read out the prescriptions with them, their disabled problems they've got, mobility problems, what aids they have to use and stuff like silly little things they hadn't even considered that was a problem.
Well,
for
if
them.
you've got any sort of mental health or anxiety issues, there's no way you can fill in a form that's 45 pages long.
No, I mean, it scares the living daylights.
I hate forms. I go form blind. No. I get all the way through a form and then I read it again and it says, make sure you fill this in a black pen, and I've done it in blue.
I know, but I mean, I sort of I used to work for MenCap years ago until I injured my back as a lifting handing thing, and so that sort of knocked me sideways for a number of years. And through that, I sort of learned about benefits. That was 20-odd years ago, mind. It's all changed somewhat. But through that, I just thought, I want to help,
What a wonderful thing to do.
I'm chuffed. I'm happy about it. I love it. I love living where I live. I love the people around me, the community. Got my own ailments, but, I just tick along and get on with life. It's just...
Well, Wendy, what an amazing thing you're doing, giving back into the community as well.
I just absolutely love it. I was brought up in that manner, where I lived in the same street all my life with my mum and dad, and I brought it with me to Dorset.
Oh, wonderful.
I will carry on in that way, and I'll never give up on that, not at all.
No, like you said, it is so unfair that people are living in, in penury while there is money out there that they can claim and nobody tells them about it.
And then you've got that woman, it beggars bloody belief that this woman's fraudulent of 52 million or 54 million quid, and she's getting universal credit.
Yeah. I mean, you literally couldn't make it up, could you? It is bonkers.
It's pretty mad. Yeah. Yes, my husband will get his little letter posting aid, and by the way, you were £210.
Yeah, just get him to write back and say, what about the 54 million that the Bulgarian gang owed?
Sometimes, to be honest, sometimes on the phone he's very tempted to say a few things and I have to hold him back.
I love the sound of your old man. I like how stubborn he is. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Wendy, you're a fabulous couple. Thank you very much indeed for calling in. I've got to go because I've got to take a very quick break. But I will be back in just a moment.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a good morning to you. This is Petrie, and this is Talk, and this is Talk Back. And this gives you the opportunity to do exactly that, to have your say and to be the conversation. So there's some messages coming through as well. Grant says we have 2 million foreign-born claiming full benefits. I would suggest that if you come here, you cannot claim for at least 10 years of verified income. I don't have a problem with that, actually. If you pay in, you get out. But then what do we do with the British people who've never worked? I suppose the same. Get a job and then you can have benefits. Maybe that's what it should be. It is an insurance policy after all. If you haven't paid, I don't know any insurance policy, right? National insurance, for example. I don't know any insurance policy that you get to take money out of if you haven't paid for the policy. So maybe we should consider national insurance as an insurance policy and say to people, well, if you pay in, then you can get money out. So maybe that is the way we should do it. Because, you know, if your house burnt down and you don't have insurance, you can't then claim that insurance. See what I mean? So, Grant, I don't have a problem with that, but I do also think that should apply to British-born people who have never worked and never paid in and never contributed in any way. I don't think they should, unless it's a disability issue. I don't think they should get benefits either. So there you go. M in Newbury said, I have a friend who's been sent demands for 2 income tax years. I made the payments for her, and now they say we need to send them details of the payments. Why can't the HMRC get off their bottoms and do some work? So it's not just the DWP. No, it's not. They're all. I mean, the incompetence, the levels of incompetence are breathtaking across these departments. It's extraordinary. If it was actual business, if it was an actual private business, they'd all be sacked. It would be like these levels of incompetence are not acceptable in industries that actually make money. It's only acceptable in departments that spend money. They don't actually make any money, they just spend it. So incompetence is okay there. But if you're going to have to make the money in order to give to these departments so they can spend it incompetently, you can't afford to be incompetent, otherwise there isn't any money to give them. Mad. Let's talk to Liam now, who's in Folkestone. Hello, Liam.
Hello, Petrie.
Good morning.
I spoke to you a few years ago. I told you basically I suffered from anorexia as a man. Yeah. Suffered from anorexia years and years and years ago, and at that time I was physically and not able to actually work because I'm 6'3", and I was actually 7 stone at the time.
Oh gosh, Liam.
Yeah.
You must have been like a stick.
Yeah, I was basically on death's door. Now at that time, I had to go through so many different hoops and go through different hoops. And do you know how much I was getting a week whilst I was going through my recovery? £41 a week. Now, actually listening to you, and a Bulgarian man is actually making this money, at that time, whilst I was so thin and so on death's door that the government didn't want to give 2 solitaries about me, at £41 a week, right, I was not able to actually work or anything. So all I'm just trying to say here is that fundamentally, I think that we need a duty of care for people that maybe might be out of work through sickness, or maybe, you know, they have got a broken hip or whatever. But there's a big thing here with regard to mental health and everything. But But for somebody to actually claim this amount of money, it's just really angered me a little bit. It's really angered me.
Well, it is disgusting on so many levels. I mean, and it's a woman. There was a gang of them. I think 5 or 6 of them.
But how are they getting away with it? How are they getting away with it?
Because there's no face-to-face assessments anymore. There's only 6% of assessments are face-to-face.
Yeah.
So people can just lie. So they had a factory, basically. They were falsifying rental agreements, they were falsifying doctor's notes, they were falsifying birth certificates, they were falsifying, all of these things. And they developed, I think it was about 6,000 identities or whatever they were, and just claimed benefits. Right. And they were just, there's images I've got of them just throwing money. Just.
It's an absolute joke, Petrie, right? I just need to say this, right? £41 a week. It's just like £41, £41 probably cost the British taxpayer £250 to get me back on my feet. And I'm now a 13-stone guy who is doing very well for himself, but I had a bit of a flare-up and whatever. This was back in 2006, 2008, Petrie. But I'm back, but I just think, no, we have no duty for these guys that, are in, what, you say they're Bulgarian?
Bulgarian, and they're still living in this country. They haven't been deported, and claiming benefits. Claiming benefits.
How is that possible? How is that possible?
I don't know.
Yeah, but Petrie, living here in Folkestone, okay, just 20 miles away from me right now, there's war-torn France, apparently. I mean, come on. What's going on there?
Look, but it's the incompetence. It's the incompetence of our systems.
Exactly.
It's the systems that are wrong. If these people can set up a factory and steal that much money from us and it go completely unnoticed, that's the thing as well, Liam. Nobody noticed in this country. It was a Bulgarian that told us that this money was being stolen from us. We didn't even notice. It could still be going on today.
I know.
How is that system supposed to be fit for purpose?
Okay, this system is not fit for purpose. If you go to actually look at our local paper online, right, and I won't mention the actual name of the restaurant, but if you go and look up local Folkestone news, do you know what? We've had restaurant after restaurant after restaurant after restaurant down here in Folkestone, just literally along the lights of the twinkling lights of Calais, restaurant down here in Folkestone. And do you know what? They've all been raided. All of them have been raided for illegal workers. Okay? Yeah. Not only that, nail bars as well. Straight away up there. Also, Turkish barbers, Petrie. What is actually happening up and down the country? What is happening up and down in every single high street in this country? You see Turkish barbers, nail bars, and all of these pop-up shops. It's not right. This country is going to hell in a handcart.
Yeah, it's all fraud. They're all fronts. They're all frauds. There's a lot round me. I live in Shepherd's Bush. There's a lot round me.
But then, they are all fronts. But then, how do you actually solve this? What do you think? Do you think, okay, Nigel Farage will sort it out?
No.
No,
I don't think he will. I think that we've got to put systems in place and we've got to stop being a mug. I mean, this woman, there is no way that she and her cohort should be able to claim a single brass farthing from us ever again, ever. And I literally don't care if she's in penury living on the street. She can go back to Bulgaria. But the same goes for British people who defraud us, steal from us as well. They should never be able to claim benefits.
I don't know any British person that's stealing.
Oh, there are. I certainly do. Yeah, there are. They are defrauding, lying,
there's
stealing.
a lot. I said I don't want any British person actually stealing from us. There's a lot.
Yeah.
And many of them are, they like to, go around the back of the bike sheds. You know what I mean? No, I don't
They're all, there's a lot of people living off our dollar that do not deserve to be doing so. And we've just got to get tougher, I think, Liam. Thank you for that. And Liam in Folkestone, just got some breaking news. The BBC has filed a motion to stay discovery in US President Donald Trump's defamation lawsuit over a Panorama programme and will attempt to have the case dismissed before it reaches trial. These are new court documents that have just been released. So the BBC has filed a motion to stay discovery in US President Donald Trump's defamation lawsuit over that Panorama programme. Quick break, back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. This is Talk and this is Petrie and I'm with you until the top of the hour. We're talking about benefit fraud. Should fraudsters ever get benefits again? This is after this this woman who Todorova, a Bulgarian immigrant, says, I don't want to leave Britain. My family are here. I love it here. It's good and it's helped me. Aren't we kind? She's getting universal credit now after being part of a gang that defrauded you and me, the taxpayer, from £54 million over 4.5 years. And now we're paying her benefits. Now she's getting even more money out of the taxpayer. But that's fine because it's the taxpayer, isn't it? We'll just come back at the next budget and bump up our taxes again to pay for this. £9.5 billion a year defrauded from the taxpayer through the benefit system. So should they ever get benefits paid to them ever again? Gary has messaged me, morning. The benefit fraud system touched a nerve with me. A few years ago I applied for pension credit for my old uncle, knowing he was entitled to it. He felt as if it was a handout, even though he'd worked every day of his life. I didn't find the application an easy thing to do. I don't know how some people find it so easy to scam the government. My uncle was grateful that he didn't have to worry about his winter heating bills. Those scammers shouldn't get benefits and should be deported. Absolutely, no question they should be deported. No question. Andrew says, I'd like to give a big shout out to Wendy from Dorset. Hi, Wendy, I hope you're still listening. What a wonderful person for helping out in the community like she does. She is an inspiration. If only everyone had the same commitment, including myself, this country would be a better place to live. Yeah, she's doing really good work, isn't she? She mentioned the attendance allowance that she's been helping people in her community to get, older people in her community to get. So attendance allowance is a tax-free, non-means tested UK benefit for individuals who've reached state pension age and need help with personal care or supervision due to a long-term physical or mental disability or illness. And for more information on that, if you're online, you can go to Carers First, all one word, carersfirst.org.uk and have a look in the help and advice section. If you haven't got a Wendy, then that's what you can do. Let's speak to Kevin now, who's in Basingstoke. Good morning, Kevin. You think that fraudsters should get benefits?
Well, the thing is, if you commit a crime, then you're punished, aren't you, if you're found guilty? They do try to get the money back if there's money involved. But I mean, if you haven't got any money once you've served your time, I mean, what else? I mean, what do they do if they can't get a job? Do they just starve? Do they just go on the streets? I mean, if you're going to stop a fraudster, what about somebody that's, I don't know, a paedophile or someone that's beaten their wife up or somebody that's violently attacked someone? Or
well, personally, that list you've given me, I'd say no. They can starve. I don't care.
Yeah, but then you get all these, you get all of these people with no money. What are they going to do? They're just not going to starve. They're going to steal, aren't they?
Yeah, no, I do get your point, but with benefit for, I absolutely understand what you're saying, and that, you know, once you've paid your debt to society, then it's a clean bill of health. Right, that's what we say in this country, and you know, you are back to being an innocent human being. So I do understand what you're saying, and logically you're absolutely right, of course. But there's something very personal about somebody's, you know, this gang of Bulgarians stealing £54 million from us by using our generosity against us.
Well, yeah, but I mean, look at the COVID fraud. I mean, is anybody?
Oh yeah, no, I agree. No, all those people should blooming well be in jail, and they shouldn't be allowed to claim anything ever again.
Well, and look at that Zahawi guy. I mean, he avoided paying tax £5 million
on his properties. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was fraud. He had to pay it back, and now he's still an MP and he's in Reform UK.
Yeah, and could, of course, claim benefits. I know logically you're right, Kevin, as you often are, and I do take your point on board. But there's this particular gang. They shouldn't be in the country, should they? Now,
well,
they should be deported.
No, well then, if the law says if you commit a crime, then you're deported, then they shouldn't be. But if the law just says that, you know, if you commit a crime, you're punished, but then you're set free, then they should be in the country, shouldn't they? I mean,
well, no, not foreign criminals. No, the line is drawn there, surely. If you're not born and bred here and you come to this country and you rip us off, or you commit a crime worthy of a prison sentence, and that's pretty much murder nowadays, isn't it? Everything else is just a community sentence. But you know, well, if you commit a crime as a guest of this country, then you should be chucked out after you've done your time.
Well, where was Zahawi born? Was he British?
Yeah.
Oh, right. But there's a lot of extremely wealthy people that commit crime.
Oh, I completely agree, and I'm not saying that one crime is better than the other. I'm just saying that, you know, this particular woman is saying, well, I'm going to fight my deportation because I like it here, because you're good to me. And this is after stealing money from us.
But do you know what the biggest crime is? Cybercrime and fraud, and that is £250 billion.
No, I know, but one crime doesn't detract from another, right? We're not. We're not saying what's worse. I mean, you know, as far as I'm concerned, a rapist is worse than this woman. But you know, what we're saying is that if we take this individual crime against a country that has given you, you know, somewhere to live and is good to you, as she herself has said, then you steal from it, and then you go back for more in terms of benefits.
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, but don't you think we always concentrate on this type of crime? I mean, have you ever? I mean, I've never heard. We don't hear about cybercrime or fraud that costs.
I often talk about it.
Well, you might. You don't. You might do, but on the whole, we don't hear about that, do we?
Well, possibly not. I can't answer for everybody else. I just, you know, I will talk about what I think is interesting and important, and I also talk about tax fraud as well. So, you know, and I also talk about my views on you know, very rich people who always get away without paying their fair share of tax. Always.
Oh yeah, you do. You're you know, one of the exceptions. But on the whole, no,
you're right. On the whole, that doesn't make the front page of the newspaper, right? That doesn't rile people up, and this kind of thing, anything to do with benefits, you know, hacks people off, doesn't it? But I just think that this is so clearly so wrong that I don't know why this woman has got the barefaced cheek even to apply for benefits after being part of a gang that stole 50-odd million pounds from us. And by the way, they're not paying it back. They're paying back $2 million.
Right, but why? Where's the rest of it? I mean,
gone.
Surely they can't. Yeah, it's gone. So how can you get that back? You can't, can you? If it's gone. But I mean, you're right. It is 9.5 billion in fraud, but it's almost slightly more is deliberate. But the rest is not deliberate. It's either overpaid or, you know, somebody's made a mistake on their form. And
I agree, and that should not be counted as fraud. Although, as we heard from Wendy, I got called a fraudster on a prescription that I had paid for, but they didn't have the records that I'd paid for it. So you had no entitlement to a free prescription. I'm like, all right, I didn't have a free prescription. I paid, and here's the receipt. And they went, oh, okay.
Unclaimed benefits is £27 billion.
Well, underpayment is 1.2 billion. So that's where people that should be claiming more than they are.
Yeah, but benefits that aren't claimed but could be claimed is 27 billion.
Yeah. I know that there's an imbalance there, and if everybody was paid the right amount of benefits, it would cost us an awful lot more money. But to those who deliberately lie about their condition and deliberately say, "Oh, I've got anxiety," they're making it. Well, they're going to destroy the system that is set up to help people who have got such crippling anxiety they can't work. They're going to ruin it for everybody else.
Yeah, but it is hard to prove that if you've got mental health issues. It's hard to prove that you're not, because sometimes with mental health, you could be okay one day, but not the next. Or you could be okay for a few weeks or a few months, and then you have a sudden downer.
Yeah, but there are people lying about it.
Yeah, but we don't know how many, do we? Everybody can say, oh, I know someone, but on the whole, we don't really know if it's a huge problem or these people are generally ill. I mean, I heard you say that, you know, if you haven't paid into the system, you shouldn't be able to draw money out. But some people, they haven't done very well at school. They haven't got very good qualifications. So they live in an area where there aren't many jobs. It's hard for them to get a job. So you said they
I'm sorry, I don't buy it. There's no other insurance policy that you can get a payout if you haven't paid in. I think you should have to pay in unless you can prove that you cannot work. Because people move. I was born in the countryside. I moved to London. You move. You go and get a job. You know, I think we're too soft. I think we give people the option of not working. We give them the choice not to work.
Somebody said you shouldn't. I had somebody say, "Oh, if you can't claim benefits for," I think he said 10 or 15 years. But so Is that what one of your callers, a message you read out, I think, or a caller said that?
It was a message.
But the thing is, you could come over here, you could work for 15, you could work for, 12, 13 years, and then you could be made unemployed, and then, it might take you a year to get a job again. So
yeah, but at that point you can claim. What people are saying is that you shouldn't be able to take out of a policy that you haven't paid into, and I think that's fair enough.
He said you shouldn't be able to claim anything for 15 years.
Yeah, so they would have to have worked for 10 years. And in what you've just described there, that's exactly what you're saying. And then if they lose their job, they can then claim benefits.
Well, so if they worked for 9 years, they couldn't claim benefits.
Well, I suppose you could do it on a sliding scale, couldn't you?
Yeah, I know, but
I don't think it's right.
You do your best, you lose your job, and then you're not helped because you haven't ticked the right amount of boxes.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Why not? Why is that so? Why is that so unusual? If your house is burgled and you don't have an insurance policy, you can't claim on that insurance policy because you haven't paid into it. It's not unusual that an insurance policy there is an insurance against something going wrong.
Well, yeah, I know, but,
and that is national insurance.
Yeah, I do know that, but I mean, the welfare state is there for people. Most people that claim benefits, I think, probably do it for the right reasons. They're not swindling the system because the number of people that are on, they say, there's 5 million people claiming benefits or something, but unemployment benefit, just because you can't find a job, not because you're ill or anything. There's not many of those people that have been unemployed for more than a year. A lot of those people have been in work and they're trying to find a job. There's not many that have been unemployed for a long time.
Well, in that case, they've paid in a lot to the national insurance system, haven't they? So they can claim out of it. Just to correct myself, actually, Nadim Zahawi was born in Baghdad, but he is a British citizen. So he couldn't be deported because he's a British citizen, not a dual citizen. So there you go. Just to clear that. Kevin, thank you. I've got to go because I've got to take a break and then I'll be back in just a sec.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning. This is Talk, and it is Petrie, and this is your talkback section, your chance to do exactly that. A couple more messages. All foreign nationals should be treated as a guest in our country, and then when they take liberties by breaking the law, there should always be the option they will be deported indefinitely. That's why dual nationality should not exist. Then it's easier to deport when they are not born here. Mark has said it's only, it must be nearly 10 o'clock now in Brazil. Showing off much? Having a nice time? Who was that last guy talking absolute tosh? They haven't paid their debt to society and never will. We're too soft. Deport and deport. And that's from Mark. I hope you're having a wonderful time in Brazil. This is from Sam. It says, I was overpaid when I was transferred from ESA to UC. I was led to believe that they commuted, especially as they had to sort the disability bit. Well, apparently not, and I have to pay every penny back, as I should. I should have been more aware. And that's from Sam in Lancashire. So yeah, it's really, I do take that whole thing about if you're a criminal and you've broken the law, then, you know, if you've done your time and you've done your time in prison, then you should be able to claim benefits. But there's something about this that just seems so utterly and entirely wrong. Paul, the new caller from Bolton. Hello, good morning.
Oh, hiya, Petrie. I'm not a new caller. I've just got my own phone now. I used to use
hello, Paul.
phones, so yeah, I'm actually not a new caller.
How are you?
Yeah, not so bad, thank you. Yeah, like I said, I've got my first ever smartphone now, so I'll be ringing from my phone and not my stepdad's.
I haven't spoken to you for a while, though. Where have you been?
Before Christmas, I think it would have been, won't it, at some point. But, I mean, I've thought about, I've come to this late, so I don't know fully what all this is about, and I'm not talking about it in a foreign national sense, but the problem with this is there's a lot of mixed messaging with jobs. If we're just going to talk about British-born people, there's a lot of mixed messaging, because you get this saying, which I absolutely hate this saying, where it always says it's got to be the best person for the job, which you'll never know is the best person for the job till they actually get the job, do you know what I mean? And even then you wouldn't know, because there's 68 other million people who never get trialled in that job. But you get that messaging, and often it can be a dig at minority groups and people who get on in life. So if you're giving that messaging, and then people aren't the best person for a job, then what are they meant to do if they can't get a job? That's my thing, because there are some people genuinely unemployable out there, you know, who just are rubbish at everything. And what do we do? I think, as I said to your switchboard, in terms of the benefit fraud, yeah, on balance, I agree that they should be able to get something again, but maybe it should be a food credit, do you know what I mean, or a housing credit, all the things that they need in life without the extras. But by creating a society where people can't have food and things like that, you're only creating bigger problems and costing the state in the long run, because people will turn to crime and then they're getting held in prisons.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the conundrum, isn't it? Because I agree with that, and I'm also a humanitarian, but I'm sick and tired of being ripped off. You know, it just feels like it's a relentless pursuit of those of us who do the right thing to pay constantly for those who do the wrong thing, and I'm just tired of it. You know, these people stole money not just from taxpayers, but from other benefit claimants, people who genuinely deserve, people who are severely disabled and genuinely need more help, but we can't afford to give them, because of people like this. And I'm just fed up of it.
Well, like I said, there's two topics, because obviously listening to the gentleman before me, I'm addressing some of his topics as well, and the one about crime, it's a bit more complicated, but I still go with the thing that you can't let people starve, and that even if you don't give them the extra money for pleasures, do you know what I mean? Because That will create a worse society. So there perhaps needs to be a middle ground with that one. But with regards to people, say they're straight out of school, they go for job interview after job interview after job interview. Again, they need something to survive even until they get a job. Do you know what I mean? Because again, there is bigotry out there. I mean, I'm from the LGBT plus community, and there's still bigotry towards us and trans people at the minute. Can you imagine a lot of them trying to get jobs? Do you know what I mean? Who's going to give them a job when they've been told, when employers have been conned into thinking that they're the worst people on the planet right now? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get that, and that disgusts me to my core. But
yeah, I think we've got to go with, to be a civilised society, we at least need to make sure people have a bed for the night and food, even if you don't want to give them much on top of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it just really hacks me off that this woman just stole so much money.
I've not heard the whole thing. I've come late into it.
Yeah, she stole £54 million in benefits and then is now on universal credit.
That's much harder to defend, and yeah, I wouldn't ever be. I'm not sure if it was someone with a couple of £100 in that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's slightly different when it's so deliberate.
I mean, she's had £54 million.
Why does she need benefits?
I would say she doesn't ever need a penny again. So I'm not